Hello, good evening, and a very, very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round two of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. In association with Coach Dave Academy and Thrustmaster, it is, of course, David Christie here with you tonight alongside Luke Rogers. Luke, good evening. We've spent a lot of time together this month, haven't we?
We have. It's becoming a bit of a regular occurrence, us two commentating together, and I always like it like that because it means we can sort of learn, how we work together, and also we get to experience these great championships from start to end, which hopefully we'll be able to do with this Sprint Cup.
And it also means in the 10 minutes prior, you get exposed to my terrible, terrible jokes and sense of
Can
humour.
confirm.
Yes, exactly. But tonight we focus on more serious matters at hand. This is Misano, and we are here, of course, for round two of the SimGrid Sprint Cup. An amazing round one that we had last time out at Brands Hatch, and we're hoping for more of the same. And I can confirm that is exactly what we were wishing for in the pre-race chat. So Misano is a 2.6-mile circuit in Italy, and I think we'll have a very, very short track guide lap coming up in just a second in the 488 Evo. I think, Luke, you're going to take us through that just now, aren't you?
Yeah, and we're going to watch a lap that's much better than I can do. It's a track I've always struggled at. The precision, especially over the curbs, is something I'm yet to master. We're on the main straight here, coming down to the Variante del Parco. You extend that track on the left, then cut the curb on the inside of the corner to open up this line for turn two, because your run out of here can gain you upwards of half a second. Again, you're cutting that curb on the inside, running towards turn four here. Cava del Rio here, you want to go off track to sort of bring that braking zone to the left-hand side of the track. Again, cut the inside, extend on the outside, and if you want to keep it flat through here, you can, but it's a bloody scary proposition. But all that speed is generated by keeping on the throttle through that left-right swoop. A little bit of a brake here as you head down to the hairpin. You're braking slightly off track here, and then you want to get close to that inside apex quickly. On exit again, run out all the way to this grass bit here, but don't extend the track because you can invalidate your lap so easily around here. A very scary section of the track here is you want to enter quite fast and then get down to first gear quickly, early on the throttle for the run out of the corner and onto probably the fastest section of the track here. This is called Cavone, which is something I will never be able to pronounce, and again you want to cut that inside just to shorten the track. And another very fast swooping right-hander here, and you want to be hard on the brakes here as you want to come down all the way to third gear and then get back on the throttle quickly and then down to first gear rather. Don't cut too much here because you can really unsettle the car on the throttle. Come over to that right-hand side of the track quickly, and again try and keep it flat through this left-hander. Be careful not to get on that grass and then stab the brakes. Cut the corner for the final time. Run wide of the exhibit, stay away from those big curbs because they will launch your car into space. There we go, there's a lap of Misano, and in the dry, you're looking at a sort of a curb use, I think is the best way to describe it. Every corner using those curbs. But tonight, it's going to be wet. Tonight, it's going to be very different to what we just saw there. And all those curbs go from inviting to terrifying. But being able to test yourself on each of those curbs, test which ones work and which don't, is key to pace around here. So we see these conditions. They are not easy.
Wow.
You can see top right. It is raining hard right now. And the one good thing for these guys now is that at a track where track extension is sort of part and parcel of the track, and invalidation is something that's going to happen a lot. In the wet, it tends to be more lenient, so you can get away with a few more corner cuts and corner extensions. So expect to see people on the curbs tonight, and expect to see some spins as people try the wrong ones.
And I like how you said or explained there, Luke, that the track is generous with its track limits in terms of the curbs that are there. The painted lines really don't tend to absorb any water, so they become almost mini swimming pools, and goodness knows this track is littered with these wide runoff areas, which is going to make it very difficult, especially when you decide to run wide. I love the fact that our producer Mike, I'm so used to saying producer Michael tonight. Michael Hamlet is behind the cameras tonight. I've been explaining about the man we're watching here, John Munro, stepping in for the fantastic teammate of Ross McGregor, and you better believe I will be doing a little bit of fanboying over John Munro tonight in the NSN Sprint Z team. They're currently 5th in the championship, Luke, but we have to talk about Team Fordzilla in that 488 GT3 Evo, the number 38 machine. I can't actually see. Oh, there they are. There's Dan King in 11th place there, taking the win, and it was a very, very strong outing for them last time.
Yeah, I believe it was a Grand Slam, right? They qualified first, they led every lap, and they won the race. So it was pretty much as dominant as you can get at Brands Hatch. But it's a very different track. It requires very different car characteristics, and then you throw in these wet conditions. I think we're going to see a very different sort of top of the grid tonight, and I'm kind of excited for this 889 car. I'm a big fan of the Lexus. It's the car I drive in ACC. As a lot of people that know me know, I'm a bit of a fanboy, and it is sort of the king of the wet conditions. I think everyone will agree this thing is dominant in the wet. It's so stable. It can carry so much speed through corners in the wet, and the car that's usually not that great at cornering suddenly becomes one of the best. And I'm expecting this 889 car is going to do well in these conditions tonight.
Yeah, the other news tonight for you is the fact that guess who is a late-minute replacement for Joe McCauley's teammate?
I believe it's David Burrell, isn't it?
It certainly is. So, yeah, the man himself steps into the machine, and I only realised that when I saw him come up live on YouTube, saying that he was stepping in as a super sub, and he's got a picture of George Russell. So I'm liking the parallels being drawn there between David Perel and George Russell even. So we are in qualifying just now. Another 16 minutes left to go of this 20-minute qualifying session, and some times just starting to trickle in just now. They're not really representative, I believe, of the faster times that we're going to have in the next 10 minutes or so. But Maciek Malinowski at the top of the time screens there, 139.984 ahead of Thibaut Prost in that 132 McLaren there. So is there anybody else that you've got your eye on tonight, Luke?
Well, we saw two Bentleys do very well at Brands Hatch. You know, it's a track that suits the cars. They're very stable. They're good through corners. And I expect with this track and the track conditions combined, those cars are going to come strong again. You know, we saw the was it the NSN Sprint Z 214 Bentley, and I believe it was the Jardia 39 car that was 4th and 5th at Brands Hatch. So I expect they'll come strong again. You know, you always look at those front engine cars as the ones that should be good in these kind of conditions. But recently I've been seeing some Porsches that they've actually been quite fast in the wet. So I'm curious if those times are actually pretty good, because, you know, remember, a really good lap round here in the dry is a 32. So seven seconds off at a track where cornering is all your time, you know, where using those curbs is all your time in the dry, which is things you can't really do in the wet. I don't think it's unrealistic to say that those are pretty good times.
Yeah, you could be right, actually, because we don't really have a benchmark right now in the championship, and we're just seeing the gaggle of times within a second of that. Yeah, you could be absolutely spot on there, Luke. I think we will possibly stray into the high 138s potentially. We'll see that just now, because we're into the high 139s just now. Thibaut Prost currently going on pole position, 139.939 at the moment in the GTWR Simulator Giant Truck team, and that team is very used to you know, being at the top of its game right now. They're currently 21st in the championship, but they did just win the World Cup at the weekend there. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of filters down in towards the Sprint Cup offering. And it's a little bit different from, say, Monday night, where we've just finished off doing the Porsche the Academy Cup, with the fact that it's a longer race, driver changes involved, and a little bit of
I'm excited man right now.
Joe McCauley in the 889. This is exactly what you were saying, to be fair, though. You were saying you were expecting big things from them, and I think you're absolutely spot on. Joe McCauley is one of the fastest drivers we have in this split. Incredibly consistent as well, and I wonder if he's going to be trying to nurse those wounds that opened up so violently on Monday night there.
Yeah, he lost the lost the championship in the Academy Cup in the final round after taking control and having he had a big spin to was it a Scary chicane, I think it was, right? He put his car in the wall. He already was running out of position for the championship. He had to come second, and I think he actually DNF'd in the end. But he is a driver that we know is fast. We know should be towards the front of the grid. And you throw in the fact that he's in the car that is, I don't even think arguably, I think definitely the best car in the wet. You'd expect that they're going to be pretty close towards the front. And I have an irrational love for that car. It's such a pig to drive in the dry. It has no grip. This is a really fast lap, by the way. Gregor, he's on to improve. He's going to go pole by 1.4 tenths of a second, 39.6. We're starting to see improvements. I don't think we're finished yet.
100%. That's us taking about 2 tenths off of the pole time there, as we see Gregor Schill having a big moment there. This is Robin Pagadel in the MSR team outfit, and then we move to Jan Kaminski in the Keck Esports number 5 Porsche. Now, this is one of the Porsches that we are used to seeing having a lot of pace. The Keck Esports team, a very well disciplined team, and the 999 outfit at the moment looking to make a little bit of a better impression on the season than they currently have right now. What are going to be the tips, do you think, going round this track, given that the weather just looks to be consistently deteriorating over the next half hour?
Well, I think this is one of the tracks where setup is the most important. You know, especially cars like the Porsche now and the presets. They're very unstable. They're very hard to drive, and it's so crucial working on the car. You know, getting it working. And by the way, if you're a Porsche driver, well, the Porsche setups have just been updated on Coach Dave Academy. So if you want some, head over there. But you know, all these cars need good setups around here. You need to have that rear end stability. You know, owing to the fact that you have those corners where you sort of throw the car in, it has to stick. I'm looking at the Ferrari as a car that may struggle with that without a good setup. I'm looking at the Porsche as another car that definitely will struggle with rear end stability around this track unless you can get it working right. So generally speaking, if you're one of those cars that sort of doesn't suit the track, you have to get that setup work right. And especially when you throw in the wet conditions, you have to sort of raise the car up, right? You have to change the way the suspension handles and the camber of the wheels, for example. And if you don't do that, your car will just not work. It will not reach its sort of window of operations that makes them fast around here. So I'm expecting we're going to see quite a disparity in the field, I think, between those drivers that have put in that setup work. You know, we always look at the Coach Dave guys, you know, given the fact that Coach Dave Academy sells setups, those cars are always towards the front when we have these sort of setup dependent tracks and where we have these wet conditions. And right now they're first and third.
Loving it, absolutely loving the fact that we've got, what's that, about 7 different manufacturers in the top 10 just now, as we slightly ignore Cody Pride going very wide for the number 69 outfit, but they're doing very well so far in the championship just now. It's not been too bad because out of the 36 they're exactly halfway in the PPR Esports Sprint team in 18th position. Just resetting back to the pits here. Lucas Kreuzer in the Sidemax Motorworks number 96 outfit, and I think the less said about their start on Monday, the better.
Yeah, I think they might want to be sort of forgetting about that one at Monza, the Academy Cup, where all 3 Sidemax cars were involved in an incident before the start-finish line on lap 1. So that was a interesting event. I don't think there's any other way to put it. But they've been doing better in the Sprint Cup. You know, currently the Sidemax car is second after obviously only one round at Brands Hatch. The Merc Evo of the 96 car, which is currently,
yep.
Where are they on the grid? Oh, they're 8th.
Yep.
Trying to find them. So they're currently 8th. They finished second at Brands Hatch. And if I remember correctly, they didn't qualify second. They were able to improve during the race. So I wonder if we're going to see that again. But right now, you can sort of, I think you can see those teams that have put in the most work getting their cars, you know, working in the wet. B, you can sort of see that sort of divide starting to happen, you know, between sort of the real front runners and sort of 20th on back. We always seem to get, you know, the top 20 seem to be so close in SimGrid in pretty much every series we have. It's normally within a second. Then beyond that, you start to see these bigger gaps form. And that's sort of what we got right now. You know, the top 19 are within a second. The 20th car is 1.1 off. Probably going to improve because I know Spears is very good in that Mercedes, so I expect him to get faster. But it's pretty awesome to see just how close everyone else is in this grid. Interestingly, the Bentleys seem to be struggling in these conditions so far. You know, we've got Jardy's car only up in 17th right now. Only 8 tenths off, so, you know, a couple of tenths improvement will put them top 15 comfortably. But, you know, we see Sheldon Muscat in the 14 car at 1.8 seconds off, and they're a team that is usually pretty fast. But they're 8 tenths up right now, so they are improving. I wonder if that's partly the track, you know, partly this dry line starting to form and maybe some of the curbs getting a bit drier, but also these drivers are starting to sort of test the track, I think is the best way to put it. You know, you need to test different lines around here in the wet. You need to work out which curbs do and don't work for you and start to use them. And you can see, you know, on those sort of corner cut curbs on the inside, he's using them a lot, but he's trying to stay off those exit curbs just to, you know, sort of get that traction out of the corner, and it seems to be working. He's going to improve, and he's going to gain quite a lot. He goes up to 21st with a 7 tenths of a second improvement.
We saw Sheldon Muscat as well at the weekend there in the qualifying for the final rounds of the World Cup, and doing a blistering lap at Kyalami in the wet. So he does know how to handle the car in the wet, and he does have a lot of pace there. But no surprises to see the top 10 right now: Macaulay, Prost, Schill, Pride, King, Monroe, Antomarchi, Tattersall, Yiger Ogorodnikov, even Kreuzer in there as well. Tattersall is a bit of a new name for me, seeing him up that far in the grid there, the number 3, 4, 5 outfit. Indeed, they have, they didn't have too great timeouts in the Adrenaline Red car last time. Yeah, I love the way you go to the simgrid.com and you can check out all the teams, and instead of giving their full name, it gives their aliases. So I've just got Dance303 and Chilled Nom Nom. That is the best username ever.
I don't even know
Chilled
what I am
Nom
on
Nom
this
and a picture of Keanu Reeves.
I think I've got a picture of a cat as mine. It's great. It's my logo is the little saint cat.
Look, I'll be honest, mate. I don't really know where I'm going to go with this conversation.
I don't know either. I'm just sort of going. I'm along for the ride. You know?
5 minutes left to go then in qualifying, ladies and gentlemen, for round 2 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup here from Misano in Italy. And remember, if you want to take part in these competitions, or you want to even get a little bit of proper competition going on here in Assetto Corsa Competition, head over to simgrid.com. We do these beta daily races, and you can take part in future championships just by signing up. This is the man we're watching just now, though, Jaroslav Honzik. He's half a second up right now on the Jardier team community. Wow, what a lap there from Jaroslav Honzik. Now, he was 5 tenths of a second up. Where has that time gone? So Jaroslav definitely got something in the bag here. Here comes Joe Macaulay, though, in the CD8 number 889 machine. He is 1/10 up at the moment. Can he go back on pole? He does. 1:37.3. This is now a battle of attrition going on right now. Who is next up to the plate? Is Timo Prost got anything right now? This is Mikhail Nowakowski in the Carbon Esports 225 machine, just coming out the final couple of corners here. It's at Misano. He's just coming through. He's gone past the Curva del Caro. This is coming up to Curva Misano, and it's on to the start finish straight here. He's got a little bit of a toe here as well. That's going to give him a little bit of a boost. What can Mikhail Nowakowski do? He jumps up 7 places to go 11th place, still half a second behind your leader, and that Porsche gets all sorts of Larry onto that lap. Adrian Antomarchi there.
I'm really liking to see the sort of diversity we have right now. This is another driver improving here. Is I think the track's starting to get a bit, you know, at least the dry line might be starting to form here, and Antomarchi's up by a couple of tenths. But it's nice to see, you know, currently we have 5 different cars in the top 5. I think it's only actually it's 6 right in the top 10 with that Aston Martin in 10th place. But, you know, this is always a track that's, well, I think historically, it's been a track that's threatened to be sort of car defined, right, in terms of the balance of performance. There's always been certain cars that have just done well here, especially in the wet as well. You're always expecting Lexuses to take control and sort of dominate in those conditions. And yes, there's a Lexus on pole, but it's only a couple tenths back to the other cars. So it's hardly like the car's dominant. I mean, it's Bargiardi, and actually right now the 888 Ferrari, the other Coach Dave Academy car, puts a 30.93 and it takes first place with 2 minutes to go.
Oh, this is starting to get a little bit feisty right now. And have a look at that, ladies and gentlemen. 20 drivers, yes, you heard that correctly. 20 drivers within 1 second of pole. That is how close things are tonight here at Misano. This is John Munro, the Super Sub for NSN Racing, and the 214 machine comes round that final corner. I think that is going to be a botched corner for that. In fact, no, he's not at the last corner. Excuse me, he's just coming up to Curva Tramonto, isn't he? I think so. Yeah. He's coming up to Curvone now. That's it, yeah. I've got my bearings now.
This track it's up there with Laguna Seca for me as a track where I get lost at quite a lot. Laguna Seca.
How do you get lost at Laguna Seca?
It's except for the corkscrew, it's literally just the same corner copy pasted. Either going left or right, or like with a slight inclination. So I always forget which corner I'm at Laguna Seca, but it's the same here. Is that it's a very I almost want to say claustrophobic track. It's a track which if you make that slight mistake, or you spot the wrong curb and think, oh, this is a curb I should cut, and then go on it and realize no, it's not. As we see, there we go, another Bentley improving, so 2 Bentleys in the top 4 now. But it's a track where in terms of remembering it, you can get lost, or you can you can forget which left-hander you're in, for example, and it can really hurt your race. We're seeing some improvements now just across the board, and I think Joe's up here. Whether he validated his lap on that corner exit, I'm not sure. We'll see when he crosses the line. Does he go pole? Not quite. I think he might have invalidated his lap across the penultimate corner there. He went quite wide on the exit.
Yeah, it looks like, and that's a shame because he had the pace, he had the improvement in hand, and this is it. This is now going to be the last effort for Joe McCauley to take that pole position away from the sister car, the 888 car that's up in pole just now. Just moving down to 17th place, Henrik Gamble, the ambassadors for Renvelten Team 24 car, currently in 17th. Now he's looking to be making some gains right now. Just 0.4 of a second would see him up into the 7th or 8th place, but that car looking very squirrely under braking there as we see him come through the last couple of corners here. And oh, that's very wide. That's almost certainly invalidated the lap there. He got Yiger on the call for the like and subscribe team. He's 2/10 up at the moment. What can he do? Goes across the line, and he's 10th place. So 21 drivers then, Luke, within 1 second of pole position as the checkered flag comes out here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see, especially in these conditions. Usually in the wet, A, you have those sort of cars that you expect to be good in the wet will sort of take control, but B, you also have those drivers that have put in the setup work, that have put in time to sort of practice the track on different types of conditions, and usually you see a bigger disparity in time. So to still see, the traditional 20-odd cars in the within a second of pole, as we seem to have at pretty much every race in SimGrid, is pretty awesome to see. And also, you look at that top. 1.5 of a second between 5 cars for pole.
Did Gregor Schill's car just turn into JCB there? It did just look like it. It was parked behind the JCB there. So Gregor Schill going into stealth mode here. And let's have a look. So Joe McCauley not going to do any damage, neither is John Munro. Yaroslav Hontik still on the track just now, as is Cody Pride, who we are watching just now in the PPR esports team. He's 3/10 up at the moment, and that would be enough to take him into the top 3. It's all about these final couple of corners for Cody Pride. What can he do? There's a car off there. He goes a little bit wide into the curb there. Dangerous stuff, as Luke has pointed out. A little bit slow on the entry to that final corner. Gets out okay though. What can Cody Pride do across the line? He improves, but not enough to improve his position. Nice little Tokyo drift there as well.
And that's the Coach Dave Academy front row lockout there in the 2 different cars. I was expecting the 889 car to be the one that takes pole, with the factor in a Lexus, but it seems like the Ferraris are actually pretty strong in the wet conditions this year. or at least in the 2020 balance of performance. It's a bit of a surprise to me, and I'm driving that car in a Imola race this weekend. I have to say, I do not like it in the wet, but to see the Coach Dave guys put it on pole, it's pretty awesome to see. And I would hazard a guess and say that it's partly because setup work. I mean, yeah, the Ferrari Evo setups I believe got released today on Coach Dave Academy, which include now wet condition setups. So I guess they've had a lot of time probably to put in put in setup work on this track, and it seems to be reaping the rewards.
Certainly does. So there we go. Confirmation of our lineup. Then it's Gregor Schill and Alaric Enslin on pole position for the Treble 8 Coach Dave Academy car. Joe McCauley and David Perel line up second in the sister car, the 889 machine. And then it's John Munro and Ross McGregor in the NSN Racing outfit, the NSN Sprint Z car. Yaroslav Honzik and Valentin Barrier in fourth position for the Jardier community car. It's then Adrian Antomarchi and Turquel in the number 181 car as well. Good to see them getting a little bit further up than they were able to do last time out in that 181 outfit. That is, of course, the Redline Zach racing car. It's then the 132 of Thibaut Prost and Conor Chia. Masik Malinowski in seventh place with that's Weidlich in seventh there as well. Cody Pride alongside Rules in eighth. It's Dan King and Arnold in the Fordzilla outfit in ninth position. Yiger Ogorodnikov and Kirill Soldatov in 10th place. It's Tattersall and Ferrier in 11th place. Novikowski and Babin in 11th. 12th place, was Novikowski and Babin. 13th place for Kreuzer and Van der Velde. We've got Gabriel Semeraro and Monaco in 14th position. Mooney and Essa in 15th. Luca Tavernari and Hensai in 16th place there. Henrik Gamble and Jan Bierman in 17th. That is Sorp and Martinez in 18th place there. Spears and Sarney in 19th. 20th for Pavlos and Klowski. Niels van de Kekelt down in 21st place. I did not expect to see that alongside Boothby. It's De Havilland and Pirali in 22nd, McDade and Chermentinsky in 23rd, Florian Becker and Richard Lindhorst in 24th place, Shelton Musket and Nollier in 25th. It's going to be Schumacher and Zero in 26th, Salachi and Neath in 27th, Lima and Felix in 28th, Robin Pregadel and Kaush in 29th. It's John Kaminsky and Hamer in 30th, and then it is Malaka and Vitsak in 31st, Vidi and Desprez in 32nd, and Desprez and it's a duplicate, right? So Vidi and Desprez in 29th, in 32nd. They're not getting two cars in this race, not on my watch. Right, 32 cars then. That is not a bad lineup for a nice little bout of racing tonight, Luke.
Yeah, and it's always nice to see. We've got 6 manufacturers, 7 cars with the 2 Ferraris in the top 10. Obviously the 181 car is the old Ferrari, and then the 888, the one on pole, is the new one. But it's nice to see a bit of diversity in the field, and what I kind of like is that the Mercedes isn't quite as dominant as I was perhaps nervous of, because I think, especially for people who have been driving Imola, there's been a lot of sort of discomfort over how strong that Mercedes AMG is, and I think perhaps we're sort of proving, at least over the first 2 races, that maybe it's not as strong as people expect, or at least some other cars can compete with it. Another thing that's interesting is how the car in 6th. Look how fast they are in Sector 1 compared to everyone else. That McLaren is flying through there, but it's just losing a lot of its time. It looks like, I guess it's both sectors, right? Sector 2 and 3, it's just losing that time. So I'm curious exactly why the McLaren's so good through there. It's a car that I've noticed is pretty strong, in the 2020 season. But it has some quirks to it that I think people haven't quite worked out yet. And perhaps that's what we're seeing tonight.
Now, Alaric Enslin, who is on pole position with Gregor Schill, is in our YouTube chat. I've got no idea
Qualifying.
what. Oh, right. Okay, so I missed the message there. Right, that's fine then. I did get worried thinking they were on pole position and couldn't go the right way. That's one hell of a bug for a Settle Corsa competition, but thankfully it's just a delayed message. So we're under 2 minutes left to go then in the second rounds. What we'll do is we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be back with live coverage of the second rounds after this. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, to round two of the SimGrid Sprint Cup in association with Thrustmaster and Coach Dave Academy. And round two here from Misano tonight. Next time we go to Barcelona for round three. It's then round four at Monza, and the season finale at Kyalami is round five. 47 seconds to go. A Coach Dave Academy lockout. Obviously, we are very happy at that one, Luke.
Yeah, it's nice to see, and as I've mentioned a couple of times already, I always like seeing Lexus towards the front because I have an irrational love for the car.
Do you like Lexuses, Luke?
I know, it's a surprise,
you've never let us know that one.
I've
I
never
didn't think you
before.
liked them.
I'd like to see him have a good race, and these conditions certainly suit them. Here we go. We've got a bit of a gridlock here.
That's cinematic. I like that. Michael Hamlet, take a bow.
Unfortunately, the real life Bentley car is being discontinued this year. Bentley announced they were leaving GT3, so this might be the last year we see them, both in the sim world and in real life. Although I guess some teams might continue to go forward with the car, but it's sort of the last bow this year of that car, and it's nice to see two of them doing so well.
Look, I've said this in several other of our broadcasts here, but can we just take a minute to appreciate how damn good this sim looks? Absolutely glorious. And you're speaking to someone that is used to working up at a dark, rainy racetrack, and this is what it looks like. This is exactly what it looks like. It's murky, it's atmospheric, it's exciting, and this just absolutely nails it.
Yeah, I look out my window in cold and rainy Nottingham right now, and the conditions look identical. So it's pretty cool to see, how realistic the game's getting these days. Oh, I did it again. The sim. How good the sim is looking these days. But
you're just. Do you know what it is? You're waiting for a
you.
crowd of pitchforks to arrive at your door.
Right, I think if there's a couple of tiki torches, it might light up the otherwise gloomy evening. But yeah, back to the race. 90 minutes around this track in these conditions. I said that some of those curbs are very scary in these conditions, right? When you have to drive over them for 90 minutes, I think we're bound to see a few incidents today. Hopefully not between cars. You always, if there are going to be incidents, you kind of want it to be isolated to one or two cars, just because you don't want a big portion of the grid getting caught up in something that's not their fault. But especially lap one round here, the conditions can be a little bit different to qualifying. There won't be a dry line at the start of the race, so you're always a little bit nervous when you're, especially that pole car, because you don't really know what you're coming up to in terms of the amount of water on the track, and especially if you look at how hard it's raining right now. There is a time difference in the sim between qualifying and the race, so in theory there should be more water on track, so you have absolutely no idea how fast it's going to be. The braking distances don't change too much, luckily for them, but it's going to be a scary lap one for these drivers.
Pretty sure I just saw a flash of lightning off in the background there, but it does look like it's consistent levels of wetness at the moment. That's certainly what our weather forecast is showing us there at the top of the screen. An hour and a half waiting ahead of us just very shortly. I've got to be honest, I'm really excited for this. There's a lot of big names. We get to see them, time and time again. And it's just great to see these drivers, settle scores on a regular basis.
And it's nice that we sort of have, I think, narratives, forming. We have these drivers that are so consistently towards the front, and Joe, in that 889 car, I think he has something to prove tonight. He has to to sort of bounce back from that Academy Cup race that he put his car on the wall. And luckily, this time he's not in a Porsche Cup car as we come to the start of the race.
Yep, here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. Round 2 of the SimGrid Sprint Cup is getting underway here live on YouTube. David Christie and Luke Rogers bringing you all of the actions. The cars round the final corner, then the round curve of Misano, and the green flag flies. Away we go. It's a cracking start for Joe McCauley on the outside there. But Gregor Schill is going to retake that lead then into turns 2 and 3. And John Munro still into third place, just gets put down into fourth there. I think that's Yaroslav Hunting that's just moved ahead there, and that looks like it's Adrian Antomarchi. There's contact behind. Oh, that car's going to come straight back on. Oh, there's chaos, absolute chaos. That's
There's cars
the Ferrari
all over
of
the place.
Dan King.
They're still spinning. Oh, it's pile up. Turn around. I said these conditions would be scary. I said these curbs would be scary in the weather, and that's exactly what we've seen. The car gets pushed off into the grass on the right-hand side, coming towards one of the slowest corners on the track. And as soon as that happens, it's all over. And we've seen another bit of contact there in the hairpin as the Mercedes drives into the back. I think it was the McLaren. So Probst gets turned around. Luckily, he shouldn't have too much damage, but there's going to be a lot of damage through this grid right now.
Cody Pride just outbreaking himself there, and you've got to say a lot of these cars really failing to take into account these changing conditions. And I've said it before, you can't win it on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it, and several drivers now really feeling the dismal effect of that one. John Munro taken out from third place down into sixth place. He'll be able to try and recover from that, but look at that, Yaroslav Hunting all over the back of Joe McCauley right now. The two of them are dropping off the back of Gregor Schill, the 888 car right now, and that's a little look up the inside there for Yaroslav Hunting. They're side by side coming across the line just now here. Great final set of corners here for the Jardier car number 39, gets the move done, and that's into second place there. So it looks like we are still going so far then. John Munro trying to catch up to the back of Lucas Kreuzer in the 96 car. That Bentley really does like these wet conditions, and sits very well. It's incredibly planted, and it's such a shame to see that car going at the end of this year, Luke.
Yeah, it is. I love the boat. It's just such a unique GT3. It doesn't look like a GT3, but it certainly drives like one. But going back to what we saw at the start there, one thing that has really changed with the 2020 season addition to the game is to the sim is how the tires warm up and sort of what they do when they're cold. And right now, tires take longer to warm up, but they also, when they're cold and sort of out of that window, they have just no grip whatsoever. So when you come to the start of these races, especially compared to what it used to be, some of these cars are so hard to control. And I think we've seen that just all through the grid as cars are outbraking themselves. They're trying to carry too much speed through corners. They're trying to do things that really this car and this sim doesn't want you to do in these conditions. And that's why we're seeing through the grid we have drivers that qualified well but aren't quite going well in terms of race pace. The 889 Lexus right now is struggling, and part of that is because of tire pressures in terms of what you've sort of aimed for. When you've got a lot of fuel in your car, when there's a lot of standing water on the track, it can mess with your tire pressures a bit, because high fuel means more pressures, but more standing water means less pressures. So what you kind of want to do is aim for a little bit too low now, so that it goes up as the standing water clears, and it maybe suggests to me that the Lexus is aiming for that, and the Bentleys are more going for we want to be fast now. And we're seeing that through the grid. That's why we get this racing, and it's a track that I think is brilliant for side-by-side racing. I don't particularly like driving it, but I love racing it.
Oh, it certainly is. It's absolutely fantastic for a spectator. What it's not fantastic for, though, is for Kirill Soldatov there in the like and subscribe Team 2 560 car, because at the moment he is going further down and down the order. He's currently in 16th place, and the Igor Ogorodnikov fan club are going to be absolutely furious right now. What a camera angle there that was from Michael Hammer. Absolutely loving that. There's all hell breaking loose further down the field. This is, of course, the run down on the...
Was the car around?
Carvero. Oh, dearie me. That was several cars in that. Gabriel Semeraro involved in that one.
And got a bit of a freeze at the minute, so hopefully it'll come back. But what we saw there, I think one of the cars got pushed off into the grass, and there we go. There's the replay. We see one of the cars get a little bit wide. I think it's the Ferrari gets on the grass, and
I think that's Semirado, isn't it?
Yeah, we were already saying that the curbs were slippery, so imagine what that grass is like right now. If any of you watched the WRC today, it's at Monza, right, the rally, and there was a part of the first stage where they went onto the grass, and one of the first cars through it gets onto the grass and immediately slides straight into the wall. Well, these cars are not designed to go off-road. The rally cars are. So you think about how hard it is for a rally car on grass. These cars just cannot handle it in the wet.
Sorry, I got distracted. Like I was looking at YouTube chat again. Valerie Simin, is this GT3 or some sailboats racing? Ogorodnikov is done. They got killed. If you wonder, yes, we are mad.
There's quite a few
Never
penalties on the
change.
track, so there is a fair bit of sailboat racing going on today. We've also got the Japanese sailboat currently in third place, the Baby Godzilla, as I always like to call it.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of a court going on right now with who's that behind? Tarsal. Oh no, sorry, that's Mooney that is holding about 6 cars up right now in the Lamborghini. So that's Monroe behind him, Thibaut Prost, Henrik Gamble, Lucas Tavernari. You've got July Sorp in there, it's Noller, and James de Havilland. So 8 cars, eager. They are on the horn right now, trying to get past that Lamborghini, and it's just not happening whatsoever. I wonder how long the patience is going to last right now.
Intriguingly, he's not actually much slower than the 2 in front of him. It's really that gap between the top 4 right now, and then we see a 6-second gap after 7 minutes to 5th place. So behind that we have these big queues that are forming. But the Lamborghini is notoriously hard to pass. It's pretty good on the brakes, it's pretty good on the straights. So this McLaren especially is going to really struggle to get past because it's a car that's really sort of good through the corners. But you'd expect at some point that just that pace differential is going to get past. But this is one of the worst tracks to have this sort of split, but being in the car that is good in the corners versus the car that's good on the straights, because the straights are short enough that it's just very hard to pass. You don't get enough time to use the slipstream to counter it. So for now, this Lamborghini is going to be really good at holding on to position and being, as you said, the cork in the bottle. But eventually, this McLaren is going to have to just dive for it. But the problem is, if you dive offline and you get in that standing water, you're not going to be able to stop the car.
My breath is held right now. There's contact! You knew it was going to happen, and it's all gone horribly, horribly wrong, and the day goes from bad to worse. No, it's like that Simpsons scene.
And they're still going. The McLaren is just getting smacked by everyone right now as it tries to keep going. And I think that car's quite damaged. You can see it's wobbling all over the place.
Stop! He's already dead.
But he initiated it. He outbraked himself a little bit, and that sort of that sort of double right-hander complex. Even in real life, I remember going back to the GT World Challenge race. There was a big crash between, I think it was a Bentley and a Lexus there. As pretty much the same thing happened. One got tapped from behind because they were sort of getting frustrated, because it's very difficult to pass here. There's not a lot of straights. There's not a lot of sort of big braking zones where you can, after a straight, which you can use to get past people. So it really encourages sort of risky overtakes, and especially in these wet conditions right now, it really encourages incidents, and that's exactly what we're getting.
Oh my days! Right, YouTube chat. I've got to be honest. I'm muting YouTube chat just now because we're talking Gordon Ramsay levels assault going on in there right now. A lot of teammates going on. A lot of destroyed races. It's a wet race. You pay your money. You take your chances. James de Havilland getting a drive-through penalty there. John Monroe. We saw him going back time and time again through the laps there, and I know from personal experience there absolutely must be some major damage on that car, and he is just simply nursing that home. My goodness me, and we're barely even 10 minutes into the race. Like I've got to be honest, I don't think I've got the energy levels to do another 1 hour 20 minutes of this.
But going to the sort of salt, to sort of cover it for a second while we have a bit of a lull in action. Everyone always says, in split one you expect perfect driving, but in real life you don't have perfect driving. look at, was it last year, the Macau race, where literally the entire grid was involved in a pilot? It happens in real life as well occasionally. It's not like, you know, when you put a bunch of drivers that are good, that incidents don't happen. And when you have a track like this on lap 1, where an incident happens towards the front, you know, those kind of things just happen. And yes, you know, you're always gonna be miffed when you're the one involved. I know I get very annoyed if I'm hit by someone, but it happens. Yeah, and that sort of, you know, we go to that lap 1 incident in turn 3. Yeah, the McLaren got, I think it was the 38 Ferrari that got pushed into the grass, and we know in these conditions, in the wet, you're on that grass, you're not stopping, and it just so happens that there's a very slow right-hander, you know, straight after that, and you've got a big pile of cars that are just there. So it's, I can't use the word I want to start it, but certain things happen, I think is the PG way of saying it.
Yeah.
Yes, we never like seeing it. Well, I mean, I do. I like a bit of chaos. But as a driver,
you're a sadist, aren't you?
yes, as a driver that's involved in it, you never like seeing it. And I think for the 38 right now, you can be very, very annoyed, to put it lightly, because you're currently leading the championship and you're now down in 20th place, you know, fault of your own, with a fair bit of damage on your car. But those kind of things happen.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's also, it's a completely different kettle of fish, because we're on the outside here looking in. And I can't imagine how difficult that track condition is to drive in right now. You know, driving your own race, let alone having 5-6 cars trying
It's
to
a difficult track to drive.
Yeah, trying to murder you on the way past. And I've got to be honest, right? An hour and 20 minutes left to go. A lot of these drivers may be taking chances that I wouldn't be taking myself. And I don't mean in terms of like throwing the car in there. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying, if you're like within 3-4 tenths of a car in front of you and you're in a 5-car train, you're massively increasing the risk of something terribly going wrong with that. You know, if you've got the pace to get past them, absolutely by all means. But if you're just holding on to the back of it, is it worth potentially destroying your race?
The problem is, it's a sprint race, first off. And second off, we're at a track where overtaking is ridiculously difficult. You know, there are so few opportunities on this track where you can sort of set it up, and often it relies on you sort of diving in and you know, sort of forcing the other driver to not turn into a corner, that sort of thing, or you know, relying on them making a mistake. And in a sprint race, if you don't get that great qualifying at a track like this, which, you know, for me is a track position race, you have to sort of take those risks, and that's why we see, especially on lap 1, where you can make up a lot of positions if you drive well. You know, it's so crucial to maximize the chances you get. And when you have a grid of 40 odd cars trying to do the exact same thing on lap 1, inevitably you're going to have incidents, especially when the conditions are changing. When the conditions are worse than they've driven in so far, something's going to happen.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you on that. I guess the way I'm thinking is, if say we'll go back to what we just saw there, a 6-car battle. You know, imagine you're car 4 in that pack. You know, do you want to go and try and make a move desperately on the car that's in 3rd place there? Because all that's going to happen is you're immediately compromised by the car that's in 2nd place there as well. And I wonder if there needs to be a little bit more sort of 3000 IQ strats going on right now. But granted, yes, it's a sprint race for all that time, but now, you know, we're about maybe 3 laps later on, and the cars have all completely spread out because of that.
For me, in these kind of races, at this kind of track, you just have to take what you can get.
Yeah.
Take whichever, if you get an opportunity to overtake, you just have to go for it, because there's so few and far between here. Luckily, I think, especially for the, you know, this track is a precision track, it's a consistency track. And, you know, those two things are very hard to do in these conditions. So if you can be that driver that is at the back of a pack like that, as soon as those drivers in front of you make a mistake, you have to go for it. Yeah, I just feel like you have to try and make that pass happen. And that's sort of what we see. If you don't make it happen and you get stuck in these trains, I mean, yes, you know, not going for the overtakes is lessening your chance of causing an incident, but that doesn't mean you're lessening your chance of getting involved in one, because all it takes is someone else to do it, and you're suddenly caught up.
Yeah, I think it's one of those balances that all of these drivers have to take on a lap by lap basis, I guess, here, as we've got an hour and 15 minutes left to go, round 2 here from Misano of the Sim Grid Sprint Cup. in association with Thrustmaster and Coach Dave Academy. And I'll tell you what, it feels like half an hour's gone by already with all of that action that has gone on there. This is a little nest of cars right now. Kirill Soldatov nursing at 560 apparently. He's got 26 seconds of damage on that car right now. Just behind him, Robin Pagado, who we're seeing just now. It's then Sebastian Zero in the 721 BMW, Masik Malinowski and Dan King in the 38 Ford Zilla car. So again, all of those cars are, cars that you'd expect to see a little bit further up, but that early contact has cost quite a few of these cars quite dearly in terms of overall pace.
Well, the 38 car was the car we saw go off track at the start of the race. They were the car that was pushed onto the grass. They didn't instigate the incident. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but they were the car that sort of got flung into the traffic and caused a big pileup. And I don't think it was their fault. But Hitaun in 19th as the championship leader, they're going to be a little bit annoyed about that. I think it's fair to say. But if we quickly look at the other cars, that are fighting for the championship, obviously it's only been one race of 15. But actually, it is the 38 that gets the penalty. So, we didn't see the incident, but they must have been the instigators of that contact at the start of the race. As the stewards deem they get a drive through there. So it's going from bad to worse for the current championship leaders. One race in, we've only had one race. So whether they're the genuine championship contender or not, we don't really know. But if you look at the Academy Cup, I think comparing this to that is a great example of, what kind of things do you need to win a championship? And what we saw was the drivers that had one bad race. They had Joe McCauley in the final race of the season. We saw Samir Abrami at Silverstone, Niels van der Kerkelde at Spa. All of them with that one bad race took themselves out of the championship. And if the 38 did cause that big pile-up at the start, they've gone from, after one race being the favourites to potentially already being out of the fight.
Yeah, and I guess we've seen that from the likes of Joe McCauley, that consistency really is what makes or breaks the championship. Oh, contact, 2 cars ahead there. That was Pagado, and tell me that wasn't Soldatov again, please. Oh no, chat, contain yourself, please calm down. We'll get it fixed. Oh, huge contact on Malinowski, and that was Dan King. What on earth? And this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When you're this close to other drivers and your braking points are that badly affected, what are they going to do? I mean, it's just going from bad to worse for Dan King. He's really lost the concentration now. I wonder if news has got to him about that penalty, and he's kind of lost the rhythm. Well, he's lost quite a few bits of bodywork from that car, from the looks of it as well.
But it seems like he's the architect of his own downfall, so you only have yourself to blame in those kind of incidents. And they're going to have to come in and serve that drive-through soon, and it's going to put them from what is already a pretty bad place to an even worse one. And they're just going to continue to get penalties if they keep getting involved in incidents. They continuously get more damage, and if they cause those incidents, it's their fault, and they get more penalties. And especially when you already have a penalty, we know from experience that the stewards can be very harsh on people that are involved in multiple incidents. So this 38 car is putting themselves at risk of essentially finishing last in the race. It's really unfortunate to see that in terms of the championship. But we look at the other cars in the championship right now. 4th and 5th of the 39 and the 214 car. The 39 is looking good, up in 3rd place so far. The 214 car, we saw them have a really good qualifying. I think they're involved in that lap one incident, but they sort of got away with it. This 214 car, they're only down in 8th place, so not the end of the world. The rest of the cars, we had the 888, which finished 3rd last time out, currently leading the race by 3 seconds to their Lexus teammates. We've got the Cymax Motorsports 96 car in 5th place. So what that means is for Darren King in that 38 car, having all your 4, of the top 5 at Brands Hatch, 4 of them are in the top 10. And once you have that drive-through, going to be right at the back of the grid. You're putting yourself in such a massive disadvantage in terms of points.
Yeah, you certainly are, as we see John Monroe having a big slide coming out that final corner there. I just want to point something out. Florian Becker started this race, I think it was about P28, P29, is now up to 11th place in that Porsche. Fantastic job, and obviously just avoiding all of the carnage going on at left, right and centre. That is George Boothby in the Sidemax Motorworks machine, the number 99, and he's getting caught up by McDade in the BMW just behind him, the number 11. In fact, that is not a BMW that is behind him. That looks to be a Ferrari. That is the yeah, I think he's about to get put a lap down by the number 24.
No, the 24 is a lap down.
Oh, right, sorry, excuse me. That's Henry Gamble, of course it is. Right, I don't know about you, but I need to try and catch my breath after this one. There's just so many different things going on all the way around the circuit. That is the 675 of Andre Felix, and I've got a feeling that they were caught up with the 560 of Soldatov earlier on there. And I love the fact YouTube chat is stop, we are already dead.
I think most of the chat right now is just drivers that have been killed in this race, just in the chat.
Yeah,
but do you want to know a bit of? Do you know who George Boothby is?
Go for it.
So he's actually a professional Guitar Hero player. He goes by the name of UCog Monkey. He's a massive Twitch streamer for Guitar Hero, and sim racing is like his side hobby, and he just so happens to be really good at it. Which, I mean, he's not driving on a guitar, which is stress. He's actually on a wheel and pedals, but he competes in Guitar Hero championships. So it's really cool to see that his sort of transitions, right? You know, it's not quite the same thing, you know, playing a fake guitar, driving a fake car, but he seems to be good at both.
I didn't realise Guitar Hero was still a thing. I remember it from back when I was a wee nipper. I was more of a rock band kind of guy myself. But, come on then. Right, let's have a look here because we've got just over an hour left to go, an hour and 8 seconds, and I've got to be honest, John Munro doing a fantastic job of holding that NSN Bentley in 8th place there at 214. From the sounds of it, massive amounts of damage, and you can see that from the way the car is wiggling about from left to right. Jack Noller in the GTM Mega RPM Esports number 14 machine though, trying desperately to hunt him down, and I think this is damage control for these two drivers right now.
Yeah, they're not in the worst position at the end of the world, and yes, they're perhaps not where they want to be, but they're not doing too badly, at least compared to some of the rest of the grid. So getting up to the top 10 would be, just staying in the top 10 I think would be crucial. And luckily for them, they have that 777 Lambo that is really struggling in these conditions a couple of seconds down the road. So they've got a bit of a roadblock behind them. We've already seen the Lambos encouraged a couple of instances. It wasn't their fault. The cars behind them have got a bit over aggressive, and they actually got turned around by the McLaren, which has disappeared. So I would assume it's coming to the pits after it got hit a second time. I think it damaged its steering actually. But that car's had a fair few whacks, that little green Lambo. So the Bentley's in a good place in terms of not going backwards, but they just can't seem to be going forwards right now.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate to see. That's the problem with it. But great to see John Munro still sticking to the back of Jack Noller right there just now. But you can see Mooney in the background in that 777 Lamborghini just lurking ever closer. And there is Florian Becker in the background as well. So they're still fighting for the remaining places in the top 10, as it were. I think Jan Kaminski in the 999 Porsche is going to come into that very, very shortly as well. But you know, John Munro, despite having a damaged car, is still trying to hold it up. Oh, now hang on. Instance between car 38 and 225. That is Nowakowski. Drive through 225. The penalty upgraded from 15 seconds for multiple offences. Now I wonder, because that was originally for the 38. And that's saying the 225 on that one, so I wonder if that'll get changed in a second.
That's a separate incident. Yeah, so the 38 got that incident at the start of the race that it caused, and then got involved in another one where the 225 hit it. So separate incidents. And the 225 also had a crash with the 995 Lamborghini down at 23rd in Philip Colaci's hands. So there's been quite a few cars that have been in the wars, I think is the best way to put it. You know, that 132 McLaren that qualified so well, now down in 31st in team of prop stands, as we saw involved in, I think it was 4 incidents in the space of about 30 seconds, that I think damaged the steering on the front because it got a bit of a whack. And kind of ended their race. It's unfortunate to see those kind of things happen, but it provides an opportunity now for this sort of hour and 5 minutes We're only 33% of the, well, not even 33%, about 30% of the way through. And some of these drivers now, Florian Becker, we saw him have such a great start, and I expected him to drop off, but he's actually going forwards. Now he's caught up to the 777 Lamborghini. He's actually lapping as fast as the cars ahead of that as well. So he's looking really good, especially for a car that didn't qualify well.
I'm just stunned to see, and that looks like Henrik Gamble then in the 24 is actually disqualified. So that race is done. That goose is cooked, and they will be taking no further part in this race then. Maciej Malinowski, Kirill Soldatov, George Boothby, James de Havilland, Thibaut Prost, a lot of the names there you would have expected to see in the top 10, and they are in the 20s to 30s.
Yeah, and we go to the championship, and as I said earlier, for the 38 car, one bad race pretty much puts you out of contention unless you win 3 of them. So it's going to be really rough for a lot of these drivers. Malinowski's a driver we saw. He qualified on pole one in Spa in the World Cup in his Mercedes, and it seems that maybe the Porsche doesn't quite suit him as much, and especially the track in these conditions where the instability of the Porsche, I think, is hard to drive around. It's not quite his race. We look to the rest of the grid. Boothby is a driver that normally is further up the grid. We've got Spears down in 29th place, another driver that is generally pretty high up. He's been, I think, out of form recently, but we do know he's fast. We know he can sort of get towards the front of the grid, so it's weird to see him down in 29th.
Yeah, I think so many drivers currently out of position right now. This is Jack Noller still trying to hold off John Munro, and look at the 2 cars behind. That's Mooney and Florian Becker, who are starting to catch up to that little battle. What I'm going to ask actually is if our race director Michael Hamlet can actually have a look back to P20, Maciej Malinowski. He's currently trying to hold off Kirill Soldatov right now, and those two were getting very, very racy indeed. In fact, look at that. That means that Kirill Soldatov has actually dropped off the back of that group there. Sorry, Constantine. Yeah, he's got a bit of a train.
Kirill. Constantine, yeah. You get me confused as well. He's got a train of cars following him here in the 560 Mercedes. We've got a 995 Lambo, there's a 57 Merc, there's a Porsche in there. I mean, you can even go back to the one Ferrari, the 99 Merc, and the BMW is not far off.
The Porsche
349, I think, got a bit wide on the exit there. No harm done. Probably just a lost position there, but he's going to push him a little further back. But we have this sort of train of cars forming, of people staying together, and it's weird. Recently, I feel like we've been at tracks where sort of car trains happen so often. It was something that I pointed out a lot at Brands Hatch, if you remember, where like as soon as you get involved in a battle side by side, you lose so much time that everyone else joins you. It's something we saw through pretty much every race in the Academy Cup because of the nature of the series. I wasn't really expecting it at Misano.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this kind of race either, I've got to be honest, because my eyes are on stocks, Luke. I just don't know where to look. There's so much action going on all over the place, and people just straight up dying left, right and centre, as we saw there from, I think that was Jan Kaminski in the 999 car recovering on track there. So many incidents, and again we've got a 5-car train here. Gabriel Semeraro ahead of George Boothby, James de Havilland and Cody, is that Connor or Cody McDade? Oh, dicing side by side. That's the 1 in 99. That is Semeraro and Boothby. And look at this behind. It's 3 cars in one corner. Surely not.
There's a back marker holding them up here. The 132 McLaren actually. And they went 3 wide on the straight, which is ridiculous to see. But that second car in the pack here is actually a lap down. I think actually is a few laps down. So not racing for position, but it looks like he's trying to unlap himself, which you're allowed to do, but he's getting very involved, and Boothby gets pushed back behind to have a lander because of the lapper there. I guess, I mean, it's allowed, unlapping yourself, but racing cars who are racing for position can always be a scary prospect.
Yeah, it's not advisable purely because you don't want that on your conscience if something happens because of you. George Boothby though trying to catch back up to that group of Semeraro and to have a lander right now. as we've got a lot of cars bunching together now. I think this is the cars that are out of position have now caught up with, say, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th position. What a shot there, as we've got two cars side by side just ahead of de Havilland. That is, of course, that is de Havilland and Semeraro still fighting out. Meanwhile, Boothby is trying to hold on to this position from McDade. Thinks about it up the inside here, but it's not to be. Look, my heart is racing 10 to the dozen right now. How's yours doing with an hour to go?
Well, as the Lexus is having a nice and calm race at the front, I'm nice and calm as well. But I'm loving it. I always like those chaotic races. I think I watch a lot of motorsports in real life. These sort of horrible conditions, tracks that don't really suit the conditions, close racing with cars that are damaged, it's so unique. It creates these wild races where pretty much everything you can think of happens at some point. We have overtakes, we have mistakes, we have crashes, we have pile-ups, we have everything going on right now. And the one thing we're missing right now is, I guess, sort of the calmness that you sometimes get at sort of the middle of a race. Usually you get this sort of period in the middle where everyone is where they should be on pace, and the field sort of spreads out, and then you get the point where tyre wear kicks in, where pit stop strategy kicks in. But we're just not getting that tonight. We're having these sort of groups that are just fighting for the whole first half an hour.
Great to see a lot of support in chat there for the 181 car of Adrian Antimarchi, and we'll have a little look. Oh, car off in the background. That is going to be James Havilland in the 349 car. So off into the wall he goes, and I think that was unassisted.
Yeah, that looked like he just got a bit of a tank slapper on, and I think the Porsche is pretty well known for that at this point. It's a very twitchy car, and the aero changes and the 2020 BOP has only made it worse. So I guess he probably should have gone on the CDA setups. More stable, but he puts it in the wall. I think he hit the wall at least. I didn't quite see. I was looking at the map on the right at the time, and I missed the actual instant. But he had a fairly big one. Loses a few positions to it and loses quite a lot of track position.
And that is hard lines for George Boothby, who also gets slapped with a 15-second time penalty for avoidable contact with McDade just behind him on the track there. And yeah, that is pretty much going to ruin that race. 10-second penalty to car number 721. That is 0 in the BMW there on lap 4 with 57. That's the Mercedes of Vicek. So yeah, now we're starting to see the penalties coming in thick and fast here, and I think this is just the start of things to come.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the amount of incidents we've seen, you look at the amount of penalties we've seen, and there's quite a big disparity. So I think there's going to be a lot of positions on this race decided by those time penalties, and decided by the mistakes people make rather than the overtakes, which is always interesting. At a 214, a car that finished in the top 5, they're currently 5th in the championship after Brands Hatch, getting a 5-second penalty. It's one of the lightest we've seen, but 5 seconds towards the end of these races right now, that's worth 2 positions. I expect they're probably going to lose a position to that, and certainly going to struggle to beat the other championship fighters, with that small penalty on their hands.
Yeah, we just saw a bit of a crazy moment for one of the cars there. That was George Boothby going into the grass and doing a little bit of grass cutting there. And YouTube chat, you have spoken. I will ask our director very, very nicely. Mr. Race Director, can we please go one car up to Adrian Antimarchi in the 181 Ferrari? There you go. Your wish is our command there, Adrian. Hope you enjoy this. We'll stay on board with the Red Line Zach Racing car just now. The 181 doing a great job right now of staying on the track and trying to keep at bay Jack Noller in that 14 Bentley right now. John Munro, his defence of that position was in vain. He gave it up, and he's now slipping further back to Mooney and Becker in the treble 7 and the treble 1 car respectively. But have a look at that. Cody Pride in the 69 Mercedes doing a great job of catching up to that group as well.
Yeah, and the 181 car is, I like seeing it do well, because it's the only, I believe it's the only old Ferrari on the grid. The rest of them are in the just kind of drive-throughs.
I feel like Oprah right now, Luke. You get a penalty, you get a penalty, you get a penalty.
And that's really what this race is. Usually Misano is defined by the track limit penalties that people get. Today it's being defined by the incidents that people are causing and people are being involved in. And it's a very Misano thing to happen, where penalties decide a lot of the race, because it is such a challenging track. But going back to the 181 car, they're I believe the only Ferrari on this grid that's the old Ferrari, not the new one. And that car's actually been nerfed in the 2220 POP. It's slower on the acceleration, and sort of, I think it's first to third gear, it's slower now, and then sort of fourth to sixth, it's faster. So on this track, where you don't actually ever get into sixth gear, maybe on the back straight, maybe, if you're feeling weird. But in the Ferrari, generally, you don't touch sixth gear, so that car has actually got worse. And they're still running 7th place, so it's pretty cool to see that they're right up to the front, especially compared to the newer Ferraris, which seem to be struggling.
I think with any change to BOP, it's always going to have its winners and losers, and any driver plays that roulette almost, especially in GT racing, where we know it's a factor. We know that every season there's going to be tweaks, there's going to be changes. Some cars are going to be better, some cars are going to be worse. I think what you have to end up doing is try and find the car that changes the least throughout the season, or seems to be the more balanced. So maybe go for a slightly slower car that you just hope is going to go for a BOP improvement throughout the season, or just go for one and just hope you can hold on to it through the tail end of the season, as we're on board with Chris McDade here in the Boots and Genon Racing 11 BMW right now, trying to hold on to that place from George Boothby. But George has got a 15-second time penalty anyway, and he's going to try and get onto the back of that group of Vajcak and Kalachi. In fact, it's actually Semeraro that's behind him, not Boothby. So, I mean, look, 53 minutes left to go. The cars have kind of settled down into a rhythm. We've now got pockets of fighting going on, and that's the 181 of Antamarchi, who's dropped down the order because he was up there in 7th. He's been politely shown the door, tries to tuck in behind the Bentley of John Munro there. So that means that Antamarchi is way down into 11th place there, and it's almost 3 wide into the corner here. What
he didn't lose
move!
One position, he lost 3. Because of that little bit of contact. It's just the nature of Misano. One car goes through and another one will cycle you out and just take over that gap, and that's exactly what we saw with the 777. Feeling a bit opportunistic. I think it's the 111 Porsche as well getting involved, and the 214 is not going to be enjoying that. This Bentley team, they thought they were going forward, and actually, even though they made an overtake, they didn't actually gain a position. So. As a team with a 5-second time penalty, they want to escape from these sort of packs of cars. They want to get to the front of it and pull away, because once you get stuck in a group like this with a time-second penalty, earlier we were saying they were going to lose 2 positions with a 5-second penalty. Now they can lose 3.
Yeah, the problem with them is they're also hobbled. They're trying to nurse that hobbled car. So this is going to be a very, very difficult exercise for John Munro and Ross McGregor to do as we come up to about 5 minutes, I would imagine, until halfway, and we start seeing some driver changes going on. Florian Becker doing a grand job of staying on to that group. But have a look at Cody Pride, because we had one of the chat members in YouTube asking to see Adrian Antamarchi, and I'm afraid when we did cut back to him, he didn't really want to see it at all. Cody Pride all over the back of that Ferrari now, and it's only going to be a matter of time, and I wonder if there's damage to that Ferrari.
Going back to the little chat we had about balance of performance and which cars have been sort of the winners and losers, I've seen quite a lot of consensus that the Aston Martin is really good now. At least one of the best cars in the sim, and it's really intriguing to see that we only actually have one in split 1. So I wonder if it's maybe just the tracks that we're going to are not necessarily favouring the car. But it's weird to see. I think there are a few surprises. We've seen quite a few BMWs, a car that historically has not really been a very popular pick, except by the G2 guys, who obviously G2 is supported by BMW, so you sort of expect them to be picking up that car. But there's quite a few BMWs in split 1. At least, they're the only BMWs I've ever seen in SimGrid championships. So that's cool to see. But one Aston Martin is a big surprise. We also obviously see Bentleys. They're usually a car that is sort of a I don't want to say a meme, it's very harsh, because the Bentley in real life and in sim is a very successful car, but usually we sort of see them picked by the niche teams, not the teams looking to be the outright winners. And actually this season we've got 2 after 1 race looking really good, you know, the 214 and the 39 car. We've now got the 14, which had a really bad race 1. I believe they're involved in an incident, if I remember correctly. And race 2 now, they're up in 7th place. So the Bentley actually looks like a really strong car this season, or at least for these first 2 tracks. We've got both Ferraris, you know, although Antomarchi's having a bad race, it's mostly been from contact.
So the reason for the silence is we've got our producer Michael whispering sweet nothings in our ear, and I can reassure him that no, Jardier wasn't in 2nd place. It has always been Joe Macaulay. Yeah. CDA cars 1st and 2nd. But here we go then. The pit window is open. 10 minutes of pits going in, and first in Constantine sold it off the 560 like and subscribe Team 2 car, and it'll be the man, the myth, the legend, Igor. Hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Igor, not Igor, Igor Ogorodnikov. I've been teaching myself to say that all week, so I want some praise in YouTube chat. Have a look at this though. Vincent Vichak alongside McDade, and McDade just fires it up the inside in that BMW. Oh, he's not happy with that. Philip is raging, and yeah, that was just a very firm manoeuvre there, Luke.
Yeah, those kind of hip checks are just how you make overtakes happen around here. It's something that everyone always hates when it happens, because you get like a second worth of damage that you have to either take the pits or deal with for the race. But at a track like this, where there's only one real line to all the corners, which is wide on exit, cut the corner, and wide on entry. So the other way around: wide on entry, cut the corner, wide on exit. And when you have 2 cars trying to go side by side and go for the same corner, inevitably the hip check is going to happen. And we see there Philip was flashing his lights, but for me, those kind of passes, if you're not happy with that, then you shouldn't be racing GT, because this kind of things happen.
I love that, but you just know that air inside that car is going to be absolutely blue right now with some foul language.
If I was Philip, I say this, if I was Philip and someone hip checked me to pass me, I would also be quite annoyed by it. But it's always one of those ones where you flash your lights and anger, and I'm always a hope that they'll get distracted or something, they might make a mistake or something, rather than oh, you should give this position back, because it just happens. And really, Philip turned into it, so there's really where he could go. Yeah, that's just how it happens around here. But yeah, so you were speaking a couple of minutes ago about how this race has sort of calmed down and everyone's going into their rhythm now. Well, this pit window changed everything, because not only did they have to come in the 10 minutes, they're also switching driver. So those drivers that have finally, as you say, gone into their rhythm, finally got comfortable on the track and in the conditions, suddenly are getting out the car.
Yeah, and the other part of it as well is that it just essentially presses the big reset button, just as you were alluding to there, Luke. The point being is that the drivers jump in the cars essentially are fixed, the tyres are changed, and if the tyres do need change at all, given the weather just now, but the drivers come in and they've got fresh cars to go out, and the chaos begins again, because the cars will undoubtedly be out of position. They'll be grouped up together with cars that they're not really racing exactly on track. Well, they do different pit strategies. So I think we're now in the next 5 minutes going to see all hell break loose again.
Yeah, I always am a big fan of going along when you're first in, just because you avoid that kind of issue. I had if you remember in the Kiel Army, I mentioned my Zolder sprint race, and the big thing in the Zolder, which is like this track, is it's very hard to overtake. So when you catch up to the back markers and you start lapping cars, that's when you sort of make your decision about when you come in. And in this, if you get stuck behind a couple of cars, you want to come in early. But if you're towards the front of the grid, you want to be staying out as long as possible, because what you do not want to do is to come into your pits and come out sort of in the midfield and stuck behind cars that are slower than you. So you have to make this decision in the 10 minutes. You know, am I a car towards the back that needs to come in early and maybe gain some positions by sort of undercutting? Am I towards the front in relatively clean air? Is there a gap ahead of me? Do I need to then come late because I have a lot of clean air and can get those clean laps in? It's a genuine part of the strategy that is actually quite a complex decision to make, and that was a heck of a move by Cody there to get past in the fast right-hander on the sort of the back straight, which isn't really a straight, but awesome to see him making a move in a part of the track that really isn't a traditional overtake.
Yeah, Cody Pride has got a lot of pace in that PPR esports machine. The Mercedes firing itself out of that final corner and comes across the line. His next target is going to be John Munro, just 2.9 seconds up the road, and John hobbling that car home right now. So I think it's only going to be maybe 2 laps at the very most that he's going to have to make an impression right now. Meanwhile, back up at the leads is a man that we've barely spoken about for the past 15 minutes, Gregor Schill in the Coach Dave Academy. Now, this is going to be interesting because he's coming across some lap traffic. The potential for bad things going on is very, very high right now, Luke.
Yeah, and it gets even higher if you sort of introduce those cars that come into the pits and out into the midfield, because they're going to be on cold tyres, they're going to be on heavy fuel, versus a grid that's on warm but worn out tyres, low fuel. So you'd expect that the cars that are currently on the grid, usually the overcut is the best way to go around here, but again, pitting out of traffic is important. But when you do have those cars towards the front that come in early, and you get a big disparity between the pace, especially on 2020 tyres, with the time it takes them to warm up and the sort of how bad they are out of the window. So it's a very scary part of the race for those cars that are pitting, and we see that sort of group about 15th on back now is mostly cars that are pit, and luckily for them, they're mostly on their own. We take Igor here. This car obviously came into the pits right at the start, and they've got an 8-second gap up front, so they've got a nice bit of clean air, which is a bit lucky, and B, exactly what they want, because now what they can do is they can just lap clean. Yes, they're going to be a little bit slower, but if they can gain some time now on the cars that are around, and towards that end of the pit window, when those cars come in and they've gained a couple of seconds, and they're going to be the team on hot tyres, although as we said, it's a scary moment where you're going to have a big disparity in pace, having those hot tyres versus the cold out of window ones is a real opportunity to get overtakes done.
I just wanted to point out a message for race control there. That was quite blatantly an offence by Igor Ogorondikov on track limits there, so 15-second time penalty incoming. I only say that because I know that his fan club are on YouTube chat and I want to wind them up a little bit, but it's all good. Watch for Igor down in 24th place though. I will guarantee he will be into the top 20 by the time that the race is done. We have got a disconnection, looks like further down the order there. Is that the 991? Oh, the 99 has disconnected, so that's the George Boothby in the Sidemax machine. So, well, that is not the best. They had a drive-through as well, I think, to take. So, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, they were towards the back of the grid already, got a time penalty, and probably decided to call it there as it wasn't quite going their way. I think is the sort of the shorthand way of putting it. It wasn't really their race. And, 2 drivers that we expect to be closer towards the front, but Niels didn't quite put in a qualifying performance that maybe we expected. It's a bit weird because Niels is usually a very fast driver. At the start of the Academy Cup, he was right towards the front, and he's just had bad luck. He's just had mistakes, and talking of bad luck, we're actually hearing that in qualifying, he had a game crash, so he wasn't able to get many laps on the board. And one thing is really crucial in the wet conditions in qualifying is that you just get out there and you sort of use your first stint to gauge the conditions. Your first stint to work out which curbs can I touch, what line should I be taking through the corners, and then you come in, you get your new set of tires, you adjust your tire pressures to the track conditions. You go out again, and you push, and you set those fast times. That's why we saw that improvement towards the end. It wasn't necessarily the track conditions changing. It was the drivers understanding where they could go. And for Niels, having that game crash at the start of it means that he didn't have that sort of recce. He didn't have that opportunity to test the track out, and he had to just go flat out. And I would argue that's probably why we saw him underperforming qualifying. And that combined with being involved in a lap 1 incident and getting a time penalty for it has just sort of ended their race before it began.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, when I said about Niels van de Kerkel being that far down the grid, you don't really appreciate that anything's actually happened with that. The top 3 are into the pits then. Gregor Schill comes in, Joe McCauley comes in, as does Honzig, and potentially I think this is going to be Noller having to come in as well. In fact, it is going to be everyone that hasn't already pitted, and that is going to mean that your provisional leader, I believe, is going to be the number 96 of Tinko van der Velde, if he can get round.
I think the 888 and the 889 should come ahead because there's quite a big gap.
Oh yeah, that's about at least, 25 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're ignoring the fact that we can't see the time for the 96. Because the number is to the car ahead, so we can't actually see the gap because Tinko hasn't completed a lap. So we'll see as he crosses the line, or I think it's actually when he crosses the next sector, we'll see the gap to the cars ahead. But they should come out in front. It was the 888 and the 889 were first and second. Yeah, there we go.
It's not going to happen.
So the top three should come out ahead, but I think the 96 is gonna still be a top 5 car for sure. It was P4 before the pits, yeah. So both that car and the 888 and the 39 are sort of putting their stamp on the championship right now. You know, there's 3 cars that did well at Brands Hatch, and we were saying earlier about how in a 5-race series, one bad race, you know, one mistake puts you out. Well, if you're the driver and you're finishing top 5 in the first 2 races, suddenly you're putting yourself in a position with a bit of pressure on your back, sure, but you're sort of suggesting, I think, to the grid and to yourself that you're a genuine contender now. You know, it's not just been Brands Hatch as a sort of wonder race. You know, we take the full team. We don't really know if this is their genuine pace or if they're just having a good race, you know, because they had such a rough performance of Brands. But for the 96, for the 214, for the 39, for the 888, they're all now sort of getting that sort of thought in, that sort of belief that they're contenders for the championship. And if they can all finish the race where they are now, they're going to sort of create a really close fight for that first place.
Now, I've got an issue here. The 214 Bentley of John Munro is still shown as John Munro in the car, and not Ross McGregor. Oh no, there we go. That's
yeah.
the
She hadn't crossed the.
I was panicking there.
Sector.
There we go. Yeah. Right. It's all good. It's all good. I was panicking, thinking after the hell of a night they've had, that was the last thing that they wanted there. But I've got to be honest, guys. Back up to 4th place for the number 96 Mercedes. Great job there from Tinko van der Velde. Valentin Barrier in the 39 Bentley as well. David Perel in the 889 Lexus, hunting down Alaric Ultra.
I love that he's in the Lexus, because he's usually he's a Ferrari driver in real life. You know, he drives the GTE mostly, right? And the GT3. Did he drive the GTE? I can't remember. He does both, yeah. Yes, ELMS, of course. He drives the GTE version of that Ferrari, and then in GT World Challenge, right? He drives the GT3 version, obviously. But he's in a Lexus today, chasing down the 888 Ferrari. But actually, right now, he needs to look in his mirrors, because the 39 had a better pit stop, and the 39 right now looks a bit faster. We saw it actually at the start. You know, Michael did say that he thought that the 39 was in second. And if you remember, the Lexus took a while to get up to pace, and the Bentley passed him, I think, on lap 1. And then the Lexus got him back towards the end. So it kind of seems like the Bentley's good at getting up to pace. They're good maybe on cold tires, and the Lexus sort of takes time to sort of bed into the track and get the car working exactly how it wants, which is weird because it's not my experience of the car. In case no one's noticed yet, as a Lexus driver. But it's weird to see that you have this sort of thing. And actually, it looks like maybe Valentin made a small mistake because he just lost half a second to David. So maybe the Lexus is starting to take pace, and actually they're gaining on the 888 Ferrari. So there's a potential here. With 37 minutes to go, you might have a fight for the win.
I got a personal message from John Munro saying, bleeping hell, that was rough. Had 33 seconds worth of damage on top of the pit stops at the time from getting drilled on lap 1. But he is watching, so a very good evening, John. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, buddy. A very good evening to you. Ross McGregor taking over the car in the NSN Sprint Z racing team. But there we go. There's the man we want to see, Yigar Ogorodnikov. I told you he was going to be doing big things. Already up into P21. Watch for him getting into the next 5 places. P15 is on the agenda in the next 35 minutes for the like and subscribe Team 2 Racing Mercedes, if he can stay out of trouble, and that's more on everybody else. Giorgio Carnaccia in the GTWR simulator car, the 132 outfit. I mean, they've had a torrid race.
Yeah, but going back to Igor, the problem for him right now is that all those cars ahead are starting to spread out. You know, it's really important in GT with how close the field is, you know, with how close the balance of performance is across the cars. When you come into the sort of the end of the race and there's big gaps ahead of you, it's pretty much impossible to make a lot of progress because you don't have those groups of cars that you approach. And start to sort of be able to slipstream off one and then overtake them and start slipstreaming on the next, and so on and so forth. What you have right now is he's going to pass the car and then he's going to be on, you know, even if he's let's say half a second faster, it's going to take him like 5 minutes at least to pass each car. So it's going to be really tough for him to go make any progress forwards without those groups forming. And a great example of that really is you sort of look 5th to 8th. You know, there's only a couple of seconds between those two cars, and if they started to go grouped up, suddenly the 111 Porsche, the 181 Ferrari, in particular, have a much greater chance of having a really good finish because as people race, there's packs form and they get pushed back in terms of time. And if these two here, the second and third cars race, they're not going to catch the 88 Ferrari and potentially going to bring the 96 Mercedes, which is not that far back, into the fight. I wonder now, it's sort of been about 10 minutes, I think, since these cars pit, right? The Lexus came in quite late.
Yeah.
The Bentley, I think, came in a lap before. And it still seems like the Bentley's the faster car. I was saying that it took some time for the Lexus to bed in, but it actually just looks like Valentin might be the faster driver right now. He's all over the back of David Perel, but we know this is a track that's pretty hard to pass at. And the Lexus being one of, if not the best car in a straight line, is going to make it very hard for this Bentley to get round.
100%. I don't think there's any chance of Tinko van der Velde catching up to that battle for third place. 22 seconds behind right now, and it looks like it's going to be on the inside for the Bentley of Valentin Barrier. David Perel closes that door very, very firmly and says, "Not on my watch." But look at how close they are right now. This is a thrilling battle that we've got going on right now for second and third place in the second round of the sprint grid. The Sim Grid World Cup. Oh, gone wide for David Perel. He's going to try and gather that one back up and get the cut back. And in the excitement, that's so difficult to watch. So easy to do on that corner here. And if you like this, remember to hit subscribe on the old YouTube. And if you want to leave us a like as well, that would be very, very much appreciated. We will be back for round number 3 here of the Sim Grid Sprint Cup at Barcelona. That will be a very, very enjoyable night out. That is on 17th of December, 2 weeks from tonight, and a perfect warm-up for Christmas. David Perel really struggling, I've got to say, in that Lexus right now. Yeah,
he's, I mean, you say that, he's still lapping pretty fast. It just seems like right now that Bentley has his number. And now with that small mistake that I think he got wide on one of the curbs and just couldn't quite get the braking done. Put him even wider. Allowed the Bentley to get through, but on hand, in real life, if you go to the final ELMS race, Portimao, he had a spin in the hairpin at Portimao, and then came back and I can't remember where he finished. I think it was second, but he had a really good race at the end. So, he had that mistake at the start, and I wonder if what's happening right now is he's just pushing to try and find sort of the limits of the track, and right there we saw him push maybe a little bit too hard as he tried to carry a little bit too much speed through a corner. But if you're one of those drivers that is sort of scared of pushing in the wet, sometimes you'll just lap off the pace because you're so scared of cutting a curb, you're so scared of extending on an exit that you lose pace. And right now it kind of feels like David's testing the track and trying to find where the pace is, and he is dropping back a little bit to the Bentley, but he's still got a big gap behind him, so he can afford to do it.
The other thing as well, Luke, is that it's, the way these cars are set up in these wet conditions, the tyre pressures, you have to keep them, the pressures up, and the only way you do that is by driving the car in anger. If you're a little bit timid, a little bit defensive with your driving, as you were suggesting there, that's when you're going to compound the issues that you've got, and the car is going to become sluggish because the pressures start dropping because you're not able to get the same sort of heat in the tyres.
Yeah, and one thing that sometimes happens is your teammate that's been in the car drives the car a certain way, and you have a slightly different style, and your tyre pressures aren't the same between you. And if you don't test that, it can actually really harm you on the second stint. I'll give you an example. So that my teammate for an Imola race with me this weekend, we're driving a Ferrari together, and I'm very nice on the car because I have a really smooth, sort of driving style. I don't quite turn the wheel as much as he does, so he gets a little bit more pace, but he gets a lot more tyre wear than me. But part of that is because he's getting a lot more sort of energy into the tyre and he heats them up more. So when he drives the car as I have it set up, he can't get the tyres in window. But when I drive it like he has, my tyres are cold, and if he drives what I have, it'll be too hot. So you have to know that. You have to know the difference in your style, because when you come into the pits, you need to make that tyre pressure change to suit the driver and to suit the track. And sometimes what happens is drivers either forget that, or they make a change to the track. Let's say driver one is the tyre's a little bit under pressure, and they'll change it and then realize that actually driver two is using more of the tyre and has suddenly got overheating wheels. And with the 2020 tyre model, when your tyres get out of window in terms of the pressures, in terms of the heat, they lose a lot of pace.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest things for the drivers this past month to take into account, is the brand new 2020 tyre model here for Assetto Corsa Competizione, and the changes that makes not only to the cars but to their styles of driving as well. They maybe have to take it a little bit more easy, as we've seen this cracking fight here between Daniel Ferrier and Ross McGregor in 7th place there. Very good evening to Alex Goldschmidt, one of my fellow commentators on some of the other sim races that I do. Great to see him having a watch, and he knows Ross McGregor and John Moreau very, very well. Contact! Oh no, and that's Daniel Ferrier off at the final corner there. That's a very, very uncharacteristic move there from Ross McGregor, just going a little bit too wide and collecting the rear ends of Daniel Ferrier there. And that means that Zahir Essa in the Coach to Racing Academy is all over the back of Ross McGregor right now, and that's more damage for that Bentley that they did not need.
Yeah, that's the second incident now they've been involved in. The first one they got a time penalty for. I was a little worried now that if the stewards just deem that to probably be their fault, that they could get a pretty big penalty slapped on them. I said they were one of the drivers that were putting themselves in a good place in terms of the championship, and sort of suggesting to the field that they were, one of the teams that's going to do well. But if you're starting to get those penalties slapped on, it could be a drive-through. It could be that severe if the stewards deem it, sort of a 15-second penalty. If they then upgrade it because it's a second incident, it will be a drive-through. So there's a real risk right now that they're putting their own race and their own championship fight under threat here, because you look at the gaps behind. You've got 3 seconds, 4 seconds. You've got a couple of tenths. One drive-through is going to put you outside the top 15.
I think the problem with that is something that you've mentioned several times through the night, Luke, is that drivers that do that have absolutely almost no chance of competing in the title, in the top end of the competition here. And it's such a shame, because it doesn't need to be that way for what's maybe 2 to 3 seconds of a moment.
Yeah, it was the one thing with the Academy Cup where every race there was $100 on the line, and yes, you had the championship, but there was also that sort of reward for each race. And sometimes when you're in these, you can get so demotivated by having those incidents. And I always love to see drivers that aren't in the championship fight, that maybe even just those drivers that don't have the mistakes and are just not quite on the pace, they still fight it out every race and still put in the effort. And we always see those kind of drivers, especially towards the end of the series, starting to really ramp up in pace, and we see some surprise results, because some of the drivers towards the front that have mistakes realize they can't win the championship, and maybe put less time into setup work, into practice. And the other teams, those teams that are just sort of in it to have fun and to improve, will every race put in that effort, and maybe normally they're not quite on the pace, but in those individual races they can start to do well. And right now we're sort of seeing those drivers that are setting themselves as we're going to fight for the championship, the drivers that are putting themselves out of contention with their incidents but have the pace, and then also the rest of the field that is sort of showing that they're just here to have fun.
Well, I wonder if your man David Perel in the 889 Lexus is actually starting to have those tyres come back towards him, as you were mentioning, because that gap was 2.4 seconds between him and Valentin Barrier, and that gap is now 1.6 to 1.8 seconds. So it's come down about half a second to 6/10 in about maybe a lap and a half. So yeah, interested to see how that one pans out. But I'll be honest right now, I am so intensely worried for Ross McGregor. The tyres really starting to give up on that Bentley, and he's just out there. Oh, and a bit of contact there between Zahir Essa, and the two of them are having a bit of an argument. Ross McGregor going to rejoin onto the track. He's going to try and take that place. It's going to happen again. There's going to be more contact, isn't there? You just feel a bit of something brewing between these two.
Yeah. So the Lambos let him pass there, but the 214 is getting involved in a lot of incidents right now. And there we go, the Lambo is going to get past with a bad exit for the 214 Bentley there. So the 777 gets through, takes 6th place, and this 214 car is getting involved in everything tonight.
Oofed. Yeah, and you can already see from the driving style of Ross McGregor, this isn't how we normally see him. He's normally, him and John are very, very cool, calm and collected, and you can see the dab of the throttle that little bit earlier. He's just really, really frustrated at tonight and venting his frustration there. So we'll see how that one pans out as Zahir Essa moves up into 5th place there. Troquet in the 181 Ferrari is catching up that little group as well, and that the concern I had, oh, who's that off in the background? 2 cars! Is that, please tell me that's some back markers and not David Perel. We'll find out in just a second as the cars go through the timing beams. It might have been Perale and Malika from looks of it. Yeah, it was. It was Malika and Wojciech, Malika and Perale that got caught up in that instant there. So we can all take a collective sigh of relief there and watch the cars get back on their way. Right, where were we with that battle? There you go, Igor Ogorodnikov then, top 20, and I guarantee you he will be in the top 15 in the next 25 minutes. Just 100% the pace that he's got and the consistency that he has got right now. Yeah, he will absolutely be in the top 15 through the next 25 minutes of this race. Shelton Muscat into the pits then, and I wonder if he had a drive-through there in the number 14 machine, because that's a very late pit stop in that car. So let's keep going then. 23 minutes left to go in this sprint race here. And Luke, welcome back. It's
a brief trip to the toilet.
It's got to be done, my friend. It's got to be done. I mean, what else can we see through the rest of this race? I mean, we've seen Igor Ogorodnikov just plowing his way through the field, and really I don't think anyone can stand in his way from getting into the top 15. But we've now got a little bit of a breather here. Do you think that we'll see some more madness in the last 20 minutes? Well, yeah, there we go then. Igor Ogorodnikov side by side with Neath in the Lambo. He's not having any of it. Good lad, get in there. 18th, go on son, get stuck into them. That is what I love to see. Igor Ogorodnikov sending his fans in YouTube chat absolutely wild right now. Some crazy pace, and it's Ivor Shermantinsky in the 11 BMW who is next on his list. Igor Ogorodnikov is the fastest man on track. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, his pace is great, but unfortunately for them, they got taken out of contention partly by qualifying and partly through early incidents. So they're sort of on a salvage race now with 20 minutes left to go. They can still make a bit of progress, but as I said, there's not really any battles ahead of them. This is the only one, and it's what, 30 odd seconds up the road, so it's very hard for him to make a lot of progress. So he's doing really well, to be honest. He's making more progress than I expected. He's only got a second and a half up to the road to Shermatinsky, and then there's the big gap that is going to be the one that he can't really get round, but he can at least get one more position. There's a 17th that is likely, and then you look at, actually there's that 15-second penalty for the 911 car, so there's an extra position. So it's a pretty good salvage race for the 560 car, but you look towards the top of the grid and there's a suggestion, I think, in terms of the times that we're seeing, that there's going to be sort of a fight for 5th place. You know, we have the 1 second gap to the 214 that is dropping back a little bit because of the, you know, we saw that contact. But the 181 car is looking good. The old Ferrari is looking good on pace, and it's starting to make some progress. And whilst there's a big gap up to the top 4, that sort of battle for 5th place is definitely something that I could see sort of breaking out and becoming a big fight. And talking of fights, we've got a battle for 12th place here between the 999 and the 721 as Fake Schumacher is looking for a way past. I don't actually know if that's his real name.
Fake Schumacher, Martin Schumacher. Oh, side by side then, this is not going to end well. Surely both cars very, very respectful of each other. That's a great move from the Roll Racing BMW of Martin Schumacher, the 721 machine, up the inside of that right-hander complex, now into Curva del Caro, and then it is off towards Curva Misano for the next time of asking. I think that's what, about maybe 24, 25 laps that we've done here. It certainly feels like about 70 laps that we've done right now. It feels, honestly, 40 laps then, so halfway in between the two of them. David Martinez for the race for, what's that say, race for Cat Motorsport. I can barely remember all of the team names in here because they vary so wildly from some of the other competitions that we do here at the Sim Grid. But Martinez right on the back of that battle for Hamer and Schumacher. And I thought Hamer was having a little bit of a look there, but he just backs right out of it. I've got to be honest, I think 721 of Schumacher has the pace to just maybe break away a little bit from Hamer and Martinez right now.
Yeah, it's. I think it's sort of been the name of this race, with drivers sort of breaking away, right? We've seen individual drivers sort of build gaps, and I wasn't quite expecting it. I was expecting us to have these big packs, but I think the wet conditions especially have made it really difficult to stay in these groups, because not only do you get compromised by the conditions in terms of your stability and your consistency, but when you're following cars and you've got that spray hitting your window, you're following the cars and you're getting unsettled by the way they change the water on the track. There's a lot of issues that can be sort of caused by following a car like this that causes incidents. So whenever we've seen this sort of long period of cars driving together, we've seen crashes occur, and it's very rare that it's ended cleanly. So what it ended to happen is those cars that have crashed out or have been hip checked and pushed off track have lost time, and then we've got these gaps forming. But we still have these little battles going on, and even after 70 odd minutes, we have 3 cars fighting for 12th place.
Luke Rogers there, ladies and gentlemen, tempting fate as it is. Shermatinsky now was 4.8 seconds ahead of Ogorodnikov about 6 laps ago. That gap is now down to minus 0.4 of a second because Ogorodnikov has got past him, and he's now hunting down Klosowski for 16th place. P15, I told you, was absolutely guaranteed in the bag, and he's making me proud here. He's doing me right on this one. So it's awesome stuff. This, however, is a tale of two halves. Dan King in the Fordzilla machine, the 38 machine. Fastest on track, but last on track. Last time's winner and the current championship leader. It just shows you how badly things can go wrong there for that team.
Yeah, and what I said about one bad race in the championship puts you out of contention. What we saw in the Academy Cup was finishing outside the top 10 was what put you outside of the championship. The drivers towards the front and battling with a realistic chance had both finished top 4 every race. We come to this and you say, well, arguably the fastest team has now had a literal last place finish. Not only the outside of contention, they're going to fall back wildly in terms of championship points.
I'm just watching this time, right, with Igor Ogorodnikov in the 560 Merc. That gap was 8.8 seconds. It's now down to 7.5 in one lap. It's now 7 seconds. What is going on with Igor Ogorodnikov? He is absolutely flying right now. He's going to be on the back of Klosowski in probably about 3 laps. So he's 3 seconds a lap quicker than Klosowski in front of him. Look, that is absolutely unheard of pace.
Yeah, those kind of differentials are ridiculous to see, and you have to wonder at that point, you can say probably a second of that is down to pace, and then you're wondering, is there damage somewhere? Is there, maybe tire pressures that are out of the window? Or even it's possible in Simgrid to have, also in ACC to have sort of slow punctures. It's a thing that can actually happen, and I wonder if maybe, that Lambo is looking very unstable.
Certainly is, and I thought after he made that move stick on the Bentley that he was just going to streak away, but with that Bentley getting repairs and now having a tiny bit of damage, I don't think he's going to stretch away as much as he'd like to. And that Ferrari, while it might have pace, the 181 behind of Truquet, again, that Bentley is so wide, and on a track like this where overtaking positions are few and far between, I think it's going to be a mistake from Ross McGregor that hands that point rather than it going to be a clean move.
Well, they've got the time penalty, so it doesn't really matter if they make an overtake work, because in 15 minutes, if they can't get past soon, it doesn't matter if they're 3 seconds up faster.
Oh no!
Oh, there we go. There's the penalty. Yeah. 10 seconds for the instant with the 4-5.
They got off lightly with that one, I think. Very lightly.
Yeah, it was their second incident as well. So I'm surprised the stewards didn't upgrade it. Didn't give them a worse penalty than they got. And
shh, it's fine. It's fine. Let's just not say a word.
The 3-4-5 definitely came off a lot worse than 10 seconds. I mean, they're 14 seconds back on the grid to the 214 car now. I always kind of feel like penalties. If you cause contact and the car you hit loses a certain amount of time, I always feel like the penalty should roughly be that amount. So it kind of feels like they've got off quite lightly. It's a bit harsh on the 3-4-5 car to actually lose more time than the car that hit them, but such is life, and such is motorsports, because penalties are never fair. Remember, what was the one with that was a wild moment for the 214 as he snaps under the brakes. I think he locked one of his tyres and had a little bit of a moment. That's going to give a lot of breathing room to the 777. We're speaking about how
they gone. If we can cut to the 214, please, Mr. Director. They are taking an awful long time to get round there, and more importantly, where is the 181 then? Just away behind there. So that gap that was 0.6 of a second, I wonder if that's resulted in even more contact there.
Yeah, I think the 214 locked one of its tyres, had that bit of a wobble, and unfortunately the 181 car looked like it was sort of going for the position that the Bentley wobbled into, and had to slow down. I'm not sure if there was contact. I didn't see any, but obviously we don't have replays tonight because other Mike is away, so we can't go back and look at it. But I wonder and sort of worry if there's contact there, because the 181 car is lost 5 seconds to the 214. And those two cars were right on the back of the 777. So it's another moment for the Bentley that unfortunately has involved another car, and I think it'd be very harsh to penalise them there. But it's a shame for the 181, and also in terms of we were kind of getting hyped up for that little battle, and then it just didn't.
Yeah, it just sort of fizzled out, didn't it? It's not the greatest. But something's happened as well to Igor Ogrodnikov, because he had caught right up to the tail end of Klazowski. He was 0.4 off of him, and now he's back to 4 seconds behind that car, and not really making any dents into him.
He's bringing the gap down, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think you're.
It was no. Honestly, I remember 2 laps ago. It was because it was about 8. All right. I'm being reminded in my ears. Right. Okay. Yep. Good point there from our producer Michael, pointing out that it was actually Sherman Tinsky that was getting mixed up with, where he brought down that gap. I'm positive it was, but it's fine. Back to the final 12 minutes then of round 2 in the SimGrid Sprint Cup here, season 2. And what a thrilling finish we've got here. I've got to be honest, we need to take a bit of time out to talk about the race leader, because what a performance it has been from that Treble 8 car. Alaric Ultra Enslin in the Coach Dave Academy Triple 8 car right now in first place, 10 seconds ahead of second place Valentin Barrier. It's been a dominant drive from start to finish right now as we go into the final 10 minutes, Luke. And, those CDA race setups really coming through for the Triple 8 team.
something that's a bit weird and is worth pointing out is we go to Brands Hatch, the previous race, and it was dominated by a Ferrari. I mean, the 38 car led from start to finish after putting itself on pole by a couple of tenths. Qualifying was closer this time around, but we're going to have a different Ferrari do the same thing, where they qualified on pole, they haven't relinquished the lead at any point during the race. Obviously, there's 10 minutes left, something could happen, but they've got an 11-second gap. It was pretty much identical to the Brands Hatch race, just with a different car. And I think it is. You sort of mentioned as a bit of a segue that the CDA setups are. Maybe they're helping out, but I think that's genuinely the case because, as I mentioned a couple of times, I'm racing this car at Imola, right? And I think everyone will agree with me that the front-engine cars are very strong, especially the Aston, the Mercedes, and the Lexus are all really fast. But my teammate has put in a lot of setup work on the Ferrari to get it working over the curbs, and he's actually he's setting low 40s. I mean, I'm still low 41s. I'm about a second off him, but he's actually setting times that are faster than I'm seeing most people go in those big front-engine cars. So I feel like even more so than it used to be, the Ferrari is becoming this sort of malleable, sort of, how do I put it, a car, sort of an all-rounder, right? It's a car that, with setup changes and with work on it, you can get it working pretty much every track. And it feels like right now, Simgood is sort of showing that with the Sprint Cup, that both races, Brands Hatch and Misano, they have similar corner characteristics, but they require very different characteristics in the car usually. Both tracks tend to favour the front-engine cars historically, but also Brands Hatch, the McLaren is quite good, or at least used to be. Misano, you're looking at sort of the Porsches and the Lamborghinis are very fast here, but it's sort of weird to see the Ferrari as a car that is actually quite fast, or at least it's one Ferrari. The rest of the Ferraris are doing okay, but we're sort of seeing what we expect with the front-engine cars doing well, and then just first place is a Ferrari at both tracks.
I think it's what you said though as well, is that it's a fantastic track for the the Ferraris to be on right now. But have a look at this, because we have got a bit of a train going on, and choo who is that at the back? It's none other than Igor Ogorodnikov, right on the back of Klazowski and on the back of Jarno Kausch for the MSR Liga Endurance Team, the 911 Porsche. And Jarno is almost not in this race anyway because he's got a 15-second time penalty, so he's going to drop back behind Sherman Tinsky on this pace right now. But Ogorodnikov could be within about a lap and a half of doing exactly what I called about 20 minutes ago, of getting himself up into P15. He's already on the back of Klazowski, so let's see how this one is going to pan out, if we can actually keep an eye on Klazowski then and see how Ogorodnikov is going to make this one pass. Luke, what point on the circuit do you think that Ogorodnikov is going to make this happen?
Well, the Mercedes, compared to Ferrari at least, is better in the straights, and it's better sort of in those high-speed corners. So I'm looking at the back straight after Curva Tramonto, the sort of the hairpin, or the second hairpin of the track. I think that's going to be where the Mercedes has the biggest opportunity. The other alternative is into Croatia, which is, he's actually going to get to the outside here. If he can hold it around the outside, the Ferrari has a slide, so he's through. He's through. The Ferrari had a wobble. I think it got into the wet area of the track, and the area I was not expecting the Mercedes to go, as the Ferrari should have been stronger there. But a little wiggle from Klazowski's Ferrari there gave the opportunity for the 560 Mercedes to slip through, and that's exactly what he's done, and moves into effective P15. I was skeptical of it owing to the gaps, but he's had some lightning pace, got himself up there, and soon to make it on track, but he's already in theory there. What a drive from Ogorodnikov.
He's an absolute monster. It's the fact that no sooner has he disposed of Klazowski than he's straight on to the back of Kausch. It's just like, yum! He's straight on to the tail end of that Porsche. I promise you won't ever hear that sound effect again. That's just between me, you, Luke, and the 96 people watching right now on YouTube. If you haven't already done so, ladies and gentlemen, please hit subscribe to see more of this fantastic racing action. There goes Igor Ogorodnikov. Fires up the inside. Are you kidding me? Wow! What a move from Igor Ogorodnikov. fired it from about 2.5 miles back there. Like and subscribe, Team Racing 2. The 560 Mercedes shows how it's done. That is by far easily the move of the night, Luke.
Yeah, to get his car drifting like that and then save it, all while making an overtake. I mean, are we watching Pro Drift right now? It was incredible to actually see him control the car like that. It was a really scary moment there as he went up the inside. I thought he was going to lose it. I thought he might take out the Porsche, but no, he held on, gets the move done. It's no longer a theoretical P15, it's a literal 15 now. And while the gap is big to the front, I mean, it's possible still. Maybe he's going to win the race at this rate.
I did say top 15 about 25 minutes ago. As soon as he got himself into the P20, I thought he's got the pace to do this. And a fantastic charging drive, Yegor Ogorodnikov, for the 560 machine there. So with 5.5 minutes left to go, we'll leave him in P15. I don't think he's going to make any improvements from there. Let's catch back up with the leaders then, because as it stands, it's still the Treble A car up in the lead right now. That's Alaric Enslin in the lead, 12.5 seconds almost ahead of Valentin Barrier. Is David Perel in third place, and then Tinko van der Velde in fourth in the 96 Mercedes. Is Zahir Essa in fifth place in the 777 Lamborghini, and then sixth place for Ross McGregor in the 214 Bentley. It's then on to seventh place of the 181 Ferrari of Tim Truquet, and then eighth place is going to be Ferrier in the 345 Ferrari, Daniel Ferrier, and then Hinsai in the number 7 in the ninth place there, and then Richard Lindhorst in the 111 Porsche. Well, there you go. That's your top 10 so far with 4.5 minutes left to go, Luke. And I am dead on my feet right now.
Yeah, that order is going to change as well. So you'd have to go through it again at some point. There's no way it stays the same. It's been a pretty exciting race. I mean, I said at the start that I don't like driving this track, but I love racing it and I love watching it because it always encourages these really tight battles. And it's a track where it's so hard to get past. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of incidents tonight, but you know, as you alluded to, I do like that kind of chaos. I do like those sort of crazy races that we have, and it's exactly what we've had tonight. We've had the crazy race of the season. We go to somewhere more normal at Barcelona next time round. But it's been a great race so far. We've got 3.5 minutes left. I think we're going to have a great end to it as well, as we see still driver battles going on through the field.
And that's going to be the story of tonight, is a case of what a topsy-turvy night it's been. We thought it was going to be one thing. Lap 1 certainly turned that completely on its head, upside down. We have spoke quite a few times about Ross McGregor and John Moreau. I mean, hats off to them to nurse that car home in 6th place. They're going to lose out to 7th, I think, because of that 10-second time penalty. This is Luca Weidlich in the FTW Racing 991 machine just behind Sarai. I believe that's Bruno Sarai in the number 8 Mercedes here. 2 minutes left to go, 2:45 left on the clock here for the Sim Grid Sprint Cup round 2 here at Misano, powered by Thrustmaster and Coach Dave Academy. I've had an absolute ball tonight, Luke. It has just been so much fun from start to finish this race. It has, however, felt like a 3-hour race.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in this chair for years at this point, but to be fair, I probably have given the pandemic. But you know, we see
the 345. That's
Ferrier.
Yeah, that's the.
It was Pirelli, wasn't it?
I thought 349 Porsche. Sorry, that was Pirelli. Right, okay. I will calm down there. I just saw 3.4 and I presumed it was the 345 there.
Yeah, as you said, it's been a marathon of a sprint race. It's felt more like an endurance race than it has a sprint race, but mostly because of how much has gone on, how many battles we've had, how many moments and incidents we've had. And we're not done yet. We still have, coming into the final laps of the race, we still have several cars between them, a couple tenths between them. We've got here a battle for 12th place. We've got potentially a, on track at least, battle for 5th place, although the 214 car has that penalty. Yeah, a little bit further back, I see, again, Klasowski's catching the 911. Again, it's only a battle on track because the time penalty's there. Maybe you'll sort of do a Lewis Hamilton in Canada and just sort of sit there instead of making the pass happen because of the penalty. But this is the one to watch right now. The battle for 12th place. These two guys battling for position, and there's no penalties to speak of for either driver. So it's a straight up race. With I think it'll be one more lap to go next. Yeah, one more lap to go when they cross the line, I believe.
Yeah, we'll find out when we have a look at where the treble 8 is just now. I think he's already making his way towards the back half of the circuit as we speak, because these cars have already been lapped. So, yeah, it's been a wild, wild race. I mean, honestly, there's so much has happened during this race. It's been unbelievable. Yegor Goronnikov is still on pace to actually catch down Hamer, the 999 car, on this final lap. He was 9 seconds behind. That gap is now 5 seconds. And yeah, here we go then. This is Alaric Enslin. This is going to be the final lap that we are on just now for the Coach Dave Academy Treble 8 car. He's making his way through the second half of the circuit here, just going through Curvone at the moment, and then it's going to be on the right-handers. I love this section here on the run-up to Curva del Caro. This right-hander, this really sharp right-hander. You have to brake a lot more than you actually think. Quite generous on the curbs on the inside though, and then it's the left-hander just before Curva Misano, that final corner here. The race is done. This is going to be the final corner for the 888 car as he goes across line, or is it? Yep, there they are. Checker flag is out then. Alaric Enslin takes the win for the Coach Dave Academy 888 car. A fantastic win. Valentin Barrier in the 39 Jardier car finishes in second place. It's going to be Dave Burrell across the line in third place for the Coach Dave Academy 889 car. Joe McCauley, so unlucky not to hold on to that second place there. Tinko van der Velde is going to finish in fourth place. It's going to be Zahir Essa finishing in fifth, just ahead of Ross McGregor. Now, Ross McGregor did get, I'm not sure how he's ended up in front there, but he has done. Zahir Essa did get that place done.
Oh no, we saw Tinko was, Ross was catching him. And then they had the moment, and the Lambo got back past. So he was faster, and then they had the issue, and the Lambo got ahead. But he made it work. But still, obviously, he's going to drop back to 7th place once the penalties implemented. Yeah, it's still a pretty good race for them.
10-second penalty. Yeah, that's absolutely right, Luke.
It's still a decent race for them. So the 777 will still get their 5th place. But a good race, a bit of a messy race for the 214 Bentley. But we said at the start of the night, obviously they came into this as 5th in the drivers' championship. The team's championship after Brands Hatch. They've lost points, to the 888, to the 39, and to the 96, but they're still well within contention with the 7th place finish. With 3 races to go in the Bentley, which should go pretty well at the tracks we have left, which is Barcelona next time round, and I believe it's Monza and Imola.
What track? So we got it is we've got Barcelona, Monza, and Kyalami.
Kyalami, that's the one.
There you go.
The Bentley's good at all 3 of those tracks. It's not the best in any of the tracks, but it's good at all 3. So they're putting themselves in a good position. Yes, they're dropping off compared to the 888, the 39, and the 96. As I said, but they're still well within contention. One good race, and they're right back in it. So we've got a real good championship fight between those 4 cars, sort of developing. And actually, the 889 is going to be in a decent place because they had a pretty good round 1. I can't remember exactly where they are in the championship. Let me have a peek. But I think they're going to move into the top 5 of the championship with that 3rd place finish with David Bell and Joe McCauley. They finished. Actually, no, they finished a lot further down than I thought.
6th place. Yeah, so 6th place.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong split. I was trying to find the number.
It defaults to split 2.
Yeah, so they're actually going to move. I only listed the top 5 on my sheet as cars to watch, and they were actually the first car I didn't list. So 6th place in race 1 and a 3rd place in race 2. That's going to put them in a comfortable top 5 position on the championship. So we've got a real championship fight hotting up here between multiple manufacturers. It's going to be a real good one for the rest of the season.
It certainly is. And, we've got a lot of drivers here, so without further ado, we'll jump into them in just a second. But, Luke, thank you so much for joining us tonight, my man. That was an awesome, awesome race, and you must be looking forward to next time out at Barcelona.
Yeah, I didn't get my bike ride in today because of how wet it's been outside, so I lost all my energy from this instead. The absolute brawl this was, and the amount of. I genuinely feel like I've been watching a race for about 6 hours right now because how much happened, and I feel so tired. And as you were saying, as well, dead on my feet. But it's been a great one, and I think it's been both this and Brands Hatch have been such great races. Even though the leaders have sort of been far ahead of everyone else at both races, we've seen so many battles. At least even in the top 10, coming towards the end of both races. So there's a real, I think there's a real chance the next 3 races are going to be an awesome championship battle. And Barcelona, a track which lends itself really well to GT3 racing, is going to be awesome.
Certainly is. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Luke, and we will see you next time out.
Good night.
There we go then. Luke Rogers, ladies and gentlemen, has left the building. So let us go and have a chat to John Munro and Ross McGregor then. We will have a chat with your race winners in just a second. But a very good evening to the guys finishing in 7th place. It could have been so different, but NSN Sprint Z welcomes John Munro and Ross McGregor. Gentlemen, in polite words, because you're fellow Scots, what on earth happened?
I think, well, I don't know if you caught this in the broadcast, but lap 1 we did a really good qualifying and we were up in P3, and then we were in 4th heading into turn 3, just behind Jardier, but someone obviously got tapped into a spin and basically T-boned us. So it was kind of 100 miles an hour into the side of our door type incident. So we had a lot of damage, which we sadly had to carry for the rest of the race. But it was an absolutely mental one, David. I think given the incident we had in the first lap, we were about a second off in terms of lap time from then on, and the steering was at an angle. And then we also got caught out by someone else's spin later on and got hit by that. And then something else happened. So obviously, you probably saw we had a couple of penalties ourselves as well. I had a little tap with Jack Noller, and Ross had contact in the last corner with someone as well. So yeah, we gave out a couple of wee incidents there, and we also got really bad luck on 3 occasions. So it was absolutely mental, and I don't know how the heck we finished where we did in the end to come across line 5th, and I think it might be 6th or 7th, but I think I protested into the wrong channel, so I'm not sure. Well, the car behind us actually spun us out 2 laps to go, so we thought they might have got a penalty, but I think I protested wrong. So either way, P7, I'm getting my breath back, but yeah, crazy race.
I've just got visions of you hammering in the YouTube chat at protest. But
yeah, almost.
I mean, I've got to be honest, right? We saw the damage that car had. How difficult was it to actually take that into pit lane at half time?
It was tricky at the start. I think the first few laps. I mean, I'm gutted because we had really good pace. I think we could have been right up there with fighting with Barrier and Jardier as well for 2 and 3. But the first few laps took me a while and I lost a few places. But once I got used to it, it wasn't too bad. In terms of lap times compared to our kind of practice pace, I reckon we were probably half a second to a second a lap off. But thankfully, I mean, the second impact when I got T-boned for the second time actually kind of straightened the car up a wee bit. So the front damage kind of matched the back damage, and it meant the steering angle wasn't quite as bad. But yeah, it's a mess, and I wasn't, after the incidents, I really didn't expect to hold any kind of position, but it was so much carnage out there that we ended up getting away with it, so it was fine.
And Ross, I want you to repeat after me, take a deep breath in and out. Yeah, I could see the frustration on the chat channel. Talk us through the second half of the race.
Well, after John shunted the car twice, completely destroyed it, made it rubbish. Yeah, that was just a really bad luck, I suppose. Just one of those lap 1 incidents, and then again we got caught up in another incident. But then, as John said, the car wasn't like terrible, really bad. I was expecting it to be kind of lurching from one side to the other, but it was just slight sort of steering angle the wrong way. I think top speed was probably down a little bit. But it was okay, it was manageable. But yeah, we were quite a bit off our practice pace. As John says, we're just pretty disappointed because we think we could have had the pace to kind of run at the front, all going well. But it's just one of those things, isn't it?
It certainly is, boys. Well, best of luck next time out at Barcelona. John, are we going to see you in as a super sub again, or are we back to normal service?
We'll have to wait and see. We're yet to kind of work all that stuff out. But either way, whoever's driving, it's a strong team anyway. So yeah, if it's not me, I wish them the best.
We're not sure if we can afford John.
I was going to say the driver negotiations must be quite expensive at this point of the year.
Well, I stuck it on when I stuck it on the second row. My price went up, but then obviously on lap one, when the car came through the door, it kind of went down a wee bit again. So
Yeah, it's a few Ks on, few Ks off.
Well, boys, have a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you next time out at Barcelona.
Cheers, David.
cheers, guys.
So there you go. That was John Monroe and Ross McGregor there, and I think we'll bring in the cream of the crop right now. Then we'll bring in Gregor Schill and Alaric Enslin from the 888 Coach Dave Academy Ferrari, the winning team. Gentlemen, that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Race winners.
Oh, coffee better,
Well,
coffee better, coffee
well,
better.
yeah. So happy, so happy.
What the hell happened in that first lap?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Gregor's answer that one.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. Yeah, Sa was quite well. I started, I think, with a little bit lower TC just to get more power down against the Lexus, and it worked quite well. Then I just tried to, get my car positioned that I'm like in the lead and nobody can overtake me in the second corner. And like from there onwards, it was just, trying to, get everything out of the car, don't do any mistake, and just pull away. And at the end, I think it worked quite well out.
It certainly did, because you guys just absolutely opened up a gap consistently, not just yourself, Gregor, but Alaric in the second half of the race as well. Was there ever any point where you worried about the other drivers?
Well, I have to say, the start was a little bit tricky because the first few laps, I mean, it was like different conditions compared to quali. It was a little bit more wet, so you definitely need to adapt to these conditions. And at the start, I managed to gain like a 2 second gap, which then stayed for like the first 20 minutes or so. And during this time, I was like a little bit worried that like maybe the Bentley could catch up and the Lexus also, but it seemed like I managed the tires pretty well at the beginning, so I literally had no drop off till my last lap. Actually, I did the same lap time at the end.
And obviously, this has huge implications for your championship standings. I believe that puts you right up the top of the championship now.
Hey.
Two out of the 5 rounds done. Does that change how you're going to go in towards Barcelona next time out?
Honestly, I mean, we know that this is a championship. We won this time, but it's still 3 races to go, and it can happen so much. So we will approach the next few races as every other race, just trying to maximize our personal capabilities and get everything out of the car. And if we are again P1, then it's good. If not, as long as we max out our potential, we will be happy.
Yeah, short and
Excellent.
simple, full send.
Full send. I like that, Alaric. Well, congratulations, guys. We're really looking forward to see how the championship pans out for you. Any top secret strategies for the rest of the season?
Well, I can tell the viewers that the Coach Dave Academy setups, the new ones released for the Evo, should be quite good, I think. I mean, we used it today in the race, just did a couple of adjustments to make it a little bit more planted, but yeah, literally just loaded the setup and drove the win back home, so to say.
Actually, there's a blooming good point that we haven't actually touched on yet for the Coach Dave Academy setups. You can head over to coachdaveacademy.com and get them. How easy is it for a driver to improve their ability and skill just by loading up the setups?
I would say it's like one big parameter falls away if you buy our setups because the setups are tested, so they're from really fast drivers. So if you buy the setup, you know that it will work, and it's like built for many driving styles. So no matter if you like oversteer, understeer, you will find a comfortable setup you can drive with. And and then you have basically when you go on the track and have our setups, it's just like the parameter falls away that you could run a bad setup because our setups like they work so well on every track. They're so consistent, as you said, as you could see today. And it's just really fun to drive them, and it really helps, I guess, also to improve yourself as a driver when you have like such a consistent setup because you can attack every lap the corner the same way. And it's really helping out.
I think I just want to add to that if I
Yeah.
could. I mean, like I think Greg and I also learned this, even in this race. I mean, we always learn stuff. Yeah, so just to add, it's all about the confidence. I mean, especially in this race as well with the wet, it was knowing that we had the setup to back us and we just like attack. That's all we had to do. I mean, we didn't worry at all about like maybe spinning or making tiny mistakes and stuff. We literally just drive as we should and just keep pushing. So we didn't have to worry about the car making or being off. It's just the car was there and we just had to do our thing. And that's
Yeah.
all it is basically.
Exactly.
Yep. So you're just paying for the confidence in a car that's underneath you, planted and fast as hell.
Exactly, yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff, guys. Well, listen, thank you very much for your time tonight. Alaric Enslin and Gregor Schill from the Treble 8 Coach Dave Academy Ferrari 488 Evo team. We look forward to seeing you in Barcelona. Best luck, guys.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
So there we go then. That was Gregor Schill and his teammate Alaric Enslin. So I think we've got one last driver to have a little interview with. That's Jack Noller from the GT Omega RPM esports team, the Bentley. And Jack, yeah, buddy, I feel like I need to give you a big bro hug tonight.
Oh wow, yeah. Luck never seems to be on my side at the moment, or our team's side in general. So yeah, it was a good race. Sheldon struggled in qualifying. I don't think our setup was quite there. So on the grid before the start of the race, I literally changed like 50% of the values on the setup on the grid before the race started, and it seemed to work. 25th to P5 after the stops was mega start, and Sheldon was catching P3 and P4, and then he disconnected.
Yeah, it seems to be a problem that Sheldon is having. I've got to ask Jack on a personal note, how do you bounce back from that? How do you get yourself back in the back motivated?
It's always difficult, but it's always about you are doing the best you can, and you help your teammates deal with it when they often feel almost more dejected than you do because they blame themselves for getting rid of a good result. But unfortunately, as it may seem, I've become a little bit numb to disconnects. As I was saying in the voice chat, I think about over the last couple of seasons, or the first season and this season of the Sim Grid, I probably in the team events just had a disconnect from either myself or teammates in about 80% of the races. So it's become a bit numb to it at this point, and having a team race where we don't get disconnected at some point is going to be a nice surprise, and we can finally get the results from the pace that we're showing.
Well, I think me and you are going to have a sit down with Sheldon and get the old tech guru hat on and try and figure out some problems, see if we can help you out there. But Jack, listen, all the best, buddy, for the rest of the season. Here's hoping that we can figure out what is going on with you guys and actually get some race finishes for you.
Very much. Looking forward to getting up to the front and staying there. So thank you.
Excellent stuff. Well, best luck, Jack Noller there from the GT Omega RPM esports team. And you've got a feel for him and Sheldon Muscat. They really do put on strong performances where they can. And tech issues are always an absolute nightmare. Of course, you get them in the real world as well. And hopefully we can see if we can give them a little bit of assistance and see if we can figure out what is going on with them. But that is all we have got time for, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming up for 10 o'clock UK time here. I have been David Christie here on the Sprint Cup Round 2 from the Sim Grid in association with Thrustmaster and Coach Dave Academy. Luke Rogers has been my ably assistant tonight. I was trying to think of an alliteration set there, but didn't really happen. Able assistant tonight. There we go. That kind of undersells him. Luke is an absolutely awesome co-commentator here at SimGrid. Such pleasure to be in the booth with him. And as always, the legends behind the scenes, Michael Hamlet, amply taking over from Mike Yao from Simply Race behind the scenes there, behind the cameras, and making this look all so pretty here for the Sim Grid. But that is it. All right, guys, join us next time out. And remember to hit the subscribe button for more racing goodness here on the Sim Grid. For just now, though, take it easy.